Turf and his fiancée, Glenna Crawford, are suing Jerry's ex-wife, detention officer Mary Jo Cooper, for having their 16-year-old daughter, Samantha, thrown in jail. Mary Jo says Samantha stole her ATM card.
Yeah, this is case number 264 on the calendar in the matter of Overturf Crawford versus Cooper. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
What's your name, sir?
Jerry Overturf.
Is this your girlfriend?
Yes, ma'am.
She can sit down. Mr. Overturf, this is your former wife.
Yes.
You have 2 children.
That's correct.
Together. You have custody of the 2 children, pursuant to the judgment of divorce?
Yes.
How old are your children?
My son is 14 and my daughter is 16.
And how long have you been divorced?
A couple years.
How long have you and your former wife been separated?
3 years.
During that 3-year period, did your son and your daughter always reside with you?
My son has always resided with me. She took my daughter with her.
When did your daughter come to live with you?
Just about 2 years this month.
So far, is that all correct?
Samantha hasn't always resided with us. She came to us when she was 2 months old. She's an adopted daughter.
She's your daughter.
Okay.
Now, you have primary physical custody of the children, and your daughter was visiting with her mother. When did this visit begin?
The first part of June of this year.
Was she supposed to spend the summer?
She was going to go down there and be with her until about the 6th of July.
And your arrangement was that Mrs. Cooper, is this your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
That Mrs. Cooper would pay for her transportation back and forth for the visit.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Correct.
That was your arrangement. But something happened during the course of that visit, and Mrs. Cooper had your daughter, whose name is Samantha, arrested and taken into custody for theft.
Correct.
And you had to go to where she was to have her released to your custody. You want your former wife to pay your expenses in going down to pick up your daughter. And you also have some nonsense claim involving your girlfriend, because your girlfriend was so upset about the whole situation, it exacerbated a medical condition that she has.
That's incorrect. She already had this condition, and we'd been in to see the doctor. The doctor had said that she was having a major anxiety attack and had put her on some medication. And said
This is your girlfriend?
It's my girlfriend, yes.
Well, what I said pretty much, Mr. Overturf, was that you believe that this whole situation with your daughter exacerbated your girlfriend's medical condition. Isn't that what you're claiming?
Well,
anxiety, stress, whatever it was, and you believe that your former wife should be responsible for that.
It added to it because we were asked to stay.
Tell your girlfriend to get over it. But that's not what courts are about. You have a difficult family situation. You have 2 teenage children. And if she can't deal with it, she shouldn't be involved with you. But you don't come into court and sue for that kind of nonsense. That's why I told her to sit down. She has no lawsuit, so she's out of the picture. Now, let's deal with the fact that you had to go to get your daughter out of jail. You want to tell me when and why you had your daughter incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am. She seems to be developing some bad habits, you might say. Her sophomore year, which was last school year, she was truant November to December. And the only reason I found that out was because I checked online for her attendance. So she ended up with 0 credits for her sophomore year. So
let's get to June and July, okay, please, why you had her incarcerated.
Okay. So she come down with me in...
Where do you live?
Flagstaff, Arizona.
And where do you live?
Meridian, Idaho.
And she was with me. She didn't want to do anything except lay on the couch and talk to her friends on the phone. She used up 340 minutes worth of phone time the first 2 days she was there, so I refused to buy her any more phone time. And towards the end of her visit, she got in my purse and got my ATM card out and started charging phone calls to her friends on my card. And around the 1st of July, I checked my account, and there's all these charges. I'm like, what's going on here? So I confronted her about it, and she smugly says, yeah. I was like, okay. So I called the Flagstaff Police Department and had an officer come out and told him what was going on. And he goes, do you want her arrested or don't you? And I said, I don't think I have any other choice as a responsible parent. And so I had her arrested for misuse of a credit card.
How old was your daughter? Your daughter's 16?
16.
16. You thought you had no other choice but to have your 16-year-old daughter, who is not in your custody, arrested for using the telephone? I'm not mitigating what she did by going to your, if she in fact did it, and I believe she did it, right?
Yes.
And she went to your pocketbook, she took your credit card, she used the phone for hours and hours and hours, ran up a phone bill, didn't have your permission to do that, right?
Correct.
I still don't understand why you had her arrested.
Because it's against the law, ma'am. Tough love.
Well, Miss Cooper, sometimes tough love is appropriate when you are a consistent, constant parent, and sometimes, you know, despite your best efforts as being a hands-on, I'm there every minute of the day parent, your child strays. But if your daughter was visiting you for a month, it would seem to me that you were not terribly prudent by calling the police and responding to her use of the phone in that way. She did what teenagers do. Are these your only two children?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Bird has children, teenagers, right, Bird?
Yep.
And I've had a whole bunch of teenage children. And I'm going to tell you that they can use that phone and they can think of more schemes and scams not to get caught. I had one that used to change phone plans, you know, and she figured by the time all this works out, right, I'm going to be away in college. And she was right. I didn't call the police and have her arrested. When she's 16, does she go to an adult prison or does she go to a juvenile facility?
A juvenile facility, ma'am.
And how old are the kids who were in the juvenile facility? Up to what age?
When they turn 18, they go to the adult facility.
So, women up to the age of 18.
Yes, ma'am.
And they've committed what kind of crimes?
Any kind of crime.
Any kind of crime.
That...
Robbery, drugs. Had your daughter ever been arrested before?
No, ma'am. She's lucked out on that. She's driven without driver's license. She's smoked pot. She's done all sorts of things. And she's lucked out.
Driven without a driver's license? Smoke pot? Did you ever have any of your kids arrested?
No.
Me neither. You talk to them, you're aggravated, you don't sleep at night, you stay up when they're out. There are a lot of things that you do. You either lose weight, or you gain weight, or you start smoking, or you start drinking, or whatever it is during those teenage years. But I never would have a child arrested for what really amounts to the overuse of a telephone.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How many days did you spend in jail, Samantha?
I actually spent about 6 hours, and then I was released to an alternative home.
Have you spoken to your mother since July?
No.
She has some thinking to do.
And later today,
You did not say it was a gift.
No, I did
Right.
tell him that it was a
Right.
gift.
He's absolutely right. Your conduct is outrageous. And standing there and lying is even more outrageous.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jerry Overturf says his ex-wife, Mary Jo Cooper, had their 16-year-old daughter thrown in jail for stealing. Mary Jo says she was practicing a little tough love.
Now, what do you want to say?
Well, Your Honor, I wanted to say that maybe my wife has forgotten a few things that her daughter's done, or maybe she doesn't want to mention it, such as stealing from her other family and friends. She is on a path that is not in her best interest.
And you
my
think that a period of incarceration in a juvenile facility was going to mend her ways, sir?
I certainly do.
Now you may be seated, Mr. Cooper. Now, did you have to bail your daughter out?
No, ma'am, I did not.
You just had to sign her out.
That's correct.
If you hadn't gone to Arizona, how long would she have stayed in jail? Do you know?
No, I do not.
Okay. Samantha, your turn, right up here. Now, why'd you take your mother's card?
I had, like she said, used a lot of minutes the first 2 days I was there.
Why?
Homesick, wanted to talk to my friends, don't know anybody.
Okay.
I had money my dad sent down with me. I offered to buy a card if she would just take me to the store. And I know it wasn't right what I did, even though I didn't have the card. I wanted her to take me to the store, that's all. And I would pay for the minutes on the card.
Okay. Did you play hooky from school most of last year?
I did.
Why?
I had some troubles with school last year.
What kind of troubles?
I didn't like the school. It was a change. I went from a small high school to over 1,000 kids in one school. It was a big change.
What did you do when you stayed home?
Slept, just lazy.
And what about your father? Did he try to convince
Yeah.
you to get to school?
Yeah, so it was my fault. It wasn't my dad's.
What about this year?
I'm going full-time. I love my new school. I go to an alternative school. I have A's and B's.
Have you spoken to your mother since July?
No.
She has some thinking to do. I hope she has some thinking to do. Now, the day that you got there, were you able to have her released to your custody?
They were very good about it. When we got in, it was late in the evening, and they did something that they said that they normally don't do. They went ahead and woke her up. I got in at 1 o'clock in the morning. We signed an agreement, and I left my phone number, and they've been checking in on us to see how she's doing and making sure there's no problems whatsoever.
How many days did you spend in jail, Samantha?
I didn't spend any days. I actually spent only about 6 hours, and then I was released to an alternative, like, home thing.
Did you like the 6 hours in jail?
No.
Okay. Ms. Cooper, you had an obligation to ensure that your daughter would be safely returned on time to his home. You chose not to do that. I think that you made the wrong judgment. I think that you didn't handle this in a way that was in your child's best interest. That's my judgment. And I come from a position of law enforcement. I think that there are certain times when you have to resort to tough love for a child when their life is at risk. But in this situation, you were angry because your daughter seemed to be embarking on a path that you thought was going to lead her to no good. That usually requires you saying to a child, listen, I want to go into some counseling with you. I've made an appointment with a therapist. I want to sit down. I want to find out what's bothering you. That should not trigger you calling the police and saying my daughter stole money from my wallet. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was a vindictive move is what she was trying to do.
I know that it was wrong that I took her credit card.
I think Samantha is basically a real good person, has a lot of potential.
She's a beautiful person. She can do it if she wants to.
Pushed her away, pushed the whole family away is what she's done.
I don't talk to her.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Graham versus Goins. Step forward, please.
Housekeeper Dorothy Graham is suing her daughter, 24-year-old homemaker Tina Goins, for the unpaid balance on a computer. Tina claims the computer was a Christmas gift.
Miss Graham, this young lady is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that you made a loan to your daughter to enable her to buy a computer.
Yes, ma'am.
The agreement was that she would pay off the computer. It is your claim that she made some payments on the computer and then stopped, and you want her to pay the balance.
Yes, ma'am.
Your daughter says that the computer was a gift, that she did make some payments on the computer, but that was really done just to help you out when you were having some financial difficulty.
No, ma'am, that's not true.
How old are you?
24.
Are you divorced?
No, I'm not married.
You have children?
I have 2,
How old are they?
7 and 2.
Who do you live with?
My boyfriend,
Is he the father of any of these children?
he's the father of my 2-year-old.
Does he work?
Yes, he does.
What kind of work does he do?
He does construction
Does he work all the time?
every day.
Does he have children?
Just
other
the
than
one we have
2-year-old?
together.
That's the only child he has.
Yes.
How long have you been living on your own?
Since I was 15,
How come?
because I moved out with my first son's father.
And you moved again
Yes.
with your present boyfriend?
No, on my own. Me and just my son.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dorothy Graham says her daughter, Tina Goins, owes for a computer. Dorothy claims Tina started paying for it and then stopped.
Tell me about this computer.
Well, it was Christmas of 2000, and before Christmas, I had asked my mom if she would co-sign for me a computer because I was pregnant and I wanted to stay at home and do medical billing from home. Well, she said, no, I'm not going to co-sign for you. I'll buy you one for Christmas. It'll be a gift from me to you for Christmas. And I said, okay. And she didn't get the computer at Christmas because I lived in a small duplex and I was fixing to move and I didn't have room for it. So we waited until like February of March of 2003 and then we ordered the computer through Dell and she paid for it.
There came a time when you made some payments. When was the first payment that you made?
The first payment that I made was in October of 2003.
October. Why did you make that?
Because
for you, first
she
payment?
was hurt on the job and she was off of work and she didn't have the money to pay for it at that time.
Did she call you and ask you to do it?
Yes, she did.
And how much was that payment in October?
$44 a month.
How many payments of $44 did you make?
Probably about 7.
When did you stop making the payments?
In August.
Why?
Because our car broke down the day the computer payment was due, and that's all the money that I had in the bank, and we had to get our other car fixed because my boyfriend needed a way back and forth to work, and I have kids I have to take to school every day.
Okay, now let me hear you.
Well, she approached me to buy her a computer because her credit was bad, and she said if I would get it on my credit, then she would pay it off in March when she got her taxes, and she hasn't done that.
Did you have a discussion with her at that time?
Yes, I did, and at that time, she had just had my grandson, and she told me she was going to pay for it, and then she bought a new car instead when she got the money.
When did you start to make payments on the computer?
The first payment I made was in March.
And how come you made the first payment?
Because she didn't have the money to pay it.
Did you have a discussion with her about it?
I believe she gave me the money back in March, and the last 3 payments I've made, well, the last 4.
When did you ultimately confront your daughter about not making the payments on the computer?
When I was sent a done saying
Can I
it
see it,
hadn't
please?
been paid. Sure. It should be, this should be it. I believe that's it.
Well, this indicates in August that $128 were due, so that they were substantially behind. Did you know that they were substantially behind?
No, I didn't.
Okay. I assume that you had a discussion with your daughter when you received this.
Yes.
When was that?
That was the next day after I paid it.
And what did you tell her?
I told her if I was going to make the payments on it, then I want the computer. And I took a police officer out there and tried to get it, and she refused to give it to me.
Why did you take a police officer out to your daughter's house?
Because I know how she is. She would have fought with me. She'd have called the police on me, and I didn't want that.
So what happened when you got out there with the police?
He went up to the door and talked to her, and she refused to give it to me, told him that they were having hard times, and she planned on catching up the payments. And he told me I couldn't do anything about it unless I filed.
Ms. Goins, did you tell the police officer that you were having hard financial times?
I told him that...
Just answer my question. Did you tell the police officer that you were having hard financial times?
No, ma'am, I did not.
What did you tell the police officer?
I told him that our car had broke down, and that's all the money that I had was enough to get our car fixed.
That's pretty much saying that you had some financial difficulty, right? What? So, you didn't say to the police officer, it's my computer, my mother gave it to me as a gift. What you said to the police officer was, I couldn't make the payments on it because my car broke down. The only money that I had was this $44 to have my car fixed. And therefore, I had to choose between having a car or making a payment on the computer. You did not say it was a gift.
No, I did
Right.
tell him that it was a
Right.
gift.
Absolutely right. That you're telling me now. You owe your mother the money for this computer. So your conduct is outrageous. And standing there and lying is even more outrageous. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,499. That's all.
Thank you, Your
Out.
Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She needs to stand up and take care of her responsibilities.
It was supposed to be a gift to me. She was supposed to...
Diaz is suing her stepmother, theme park ticket taker Donna Diaz, for the return of a quilt. Sophia says the quilt belonged to her late stepfather.
This is case number 100 on the calendar in the matter of Diaz versus Diaz.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Miss Diaz, the defendant was married to your stepfather. Is that right?
Correct.
And I assume that this was a gentleman who helped to raise you,
Correct.
and he passed away.
Yes.
According to you, he was given a gift during his illness of this quilt.
Correct.
And the quilt is supposed to be yours.
Yes.
You want it. And I will call her your stepmother, says that the quilt is not yours. Anything that would belong to her husband is hers.
Yes.
Right? How long were you married?
14 years.
So this was a long-term marriage.
Yes.
And what was his name?
Anthony Diaz.
How long was Anthony married to your mother?
4 years legally.
So that your stepmother had a much longer-term marriage to Anthony than your mother did, right?
Right.
How did that quilt come into your possession?
Sophia's grandmother made it for...
Sophia, this is Sophia.
Yes.
Sophia's grandmother had made it for us for Christmas.
Maternal
and gave it to us.
grandmother or paternal
yes,
grandmother?
her mother's mother.
Okay, is that person here today?
Yes, Your Honor.
You made the quilt?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, why don't you step up?
It's beautiful.
Tell me your name.
My name is Ethel Copenhaver.
Mrs. Copenhaver?
Yes.
When did you make this quilt?
I started in April of 2003.
And you made it for Anthony?
Yes, I did.
And tell me about the moment that you gave it to him. When did you give it to him?
I gave it to him the Sunday after Thanksgiving of 2003 in my living room.
What did you say to him when you gave it to him?
I told him that this was for his early Christmas present, and it's to go back to Sophia if anything happened to him because he was very ill.
Well, you understand that you can't make that direction because you can't give a gift with strings, even if I believe that you said that to him.
Yes.
I'm not sure I believe that. Even if you did say that to him, you gave it to him as an early Christmas present.
Yes.
Once you make a gift, it's gone. You can't make a gift with sticky fingers. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
But I assume that you liked Anthony.
Oh, yes, he's been in my life
And your
30-something years, yes. Even
and he
though
was a
they-
very nice man.
Oh, definitely.
Did you like his wife?
I only saw her occasionally.
But they were married for 14 years.
Yes.
So I assume that in his final days, she took care of him.
I believe so, yes.
Sophia didn't take care of him.
Yes, she did when he had surgery.
You lived with your father?
No, I did not. I reside in Downey, and they reside in Anaheim. And I would actually, he had surgery, hip surgery. I would come from work during my lunch to take care of him while she would work. And I would come on the weekends.
So you would go lunchtime?
Yeah, during lunch. And on the weekends, I'd come and take care of him because he wasn't able to walk with his hip.
So you came over to see
Yeah.
him? But she took care of him, right?
Right.
How long was he sick?
He actually got sick worse these last 2 years.
But he was sick for a long time before that.
He had diabetes and hepatitis C.
Now, why do you think you're entitled to this quilt?
Well, my grandma, she's very creative, and I know she puts a lot of time and effort into what she does. Our whole house is filled with quilts. My grandma means a lot to me, and so does, well, we call him Tony, Anthony, who you can call my stepfather, but I don't think you can put a title on someone who loves me, and I love him very much. I thought that me and my mom got together, and maybe Grandma can create something for him, you know. He's not able to walk and get around, and he can hold on to something. You know, regardless of marriage and divorce between my mom and my stepmom, you know, Donna, we welcomed her into our family. My aunts and uncles welcomed her. It was a weird kind of family relationship, but we all worked it out, you know.
Good.
And he was aware that when it was given to him that it can go to me.
If he was aware that the idea was for you to have the quilt, he would have made those arrangements.
Well, she had actually agreed. She said, I would never do anything or take anything away from you. When my dad did pass, items that I've given to him for Father's Day, his birthday, she'd given back to me. And she
Right.
said, after
Good.
the memorial...
That was very nice of her to do that.
Right, I agree.
She doesn't have to do that. The law doesn't tell us she should do that. She is his next of kin, not you. So if you gave your father gifts and Miss Diaz gave them back to you, she didn't have to do that. Those things belong to her. Do you understand that?
I do.
Do you really understand that, or are you just saying I do?
No, I do understand.
They belong to her. And the fact that she gave them back to you suggests to me that she's a nice lady. So why would you sue her for this quilt?
It's actually something that's from my family to him, and knowing that he was ill, he named the quilt after my grandmother, which is Ethel, and that was his quilt that he was laying with, ill
Right.
with, and those moments I would like to have those.
Well, you can't. Your stepfather died married to somebody for 14 years, somebody who took care of him, who nurtured him. She's not somebody who's denying you a memento of him, a piece of something that he wore, that I don't know whether she gave you jewelry or clothes. What kinds of things did she give back to you at the memorial?
After he had passed, she had given my mom's rings back from my dad.
Just a second. So she gave your mother back jewelry.
Correct.
Something that she didn't have to do.
No.
She did it because she's a good person. Because all the jewelry belongs to her. You understand that?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Good. What else did she give back to you?
An apron, kind of like a barbecue set, shirts that I've given him, funny slogans and stuff. Just little doodads.
So
here and
lots
there.
of sentimental things.
Correct.
Things that she felt as if she wanted both you and your mother to have. So other than the fact that you would like to have that quilt and the fact that you have no legal claim to it,
I do have a statement from an officer that said she would clean the quilt and return it to me.
Why did you get an officer involved?
When my mom had called and spoke to her, she was actually going to give me my dad's Ford Ranger truck. Actually, she loaned it to me, and in writing she said after the memorial, because my car was having some troubles, after the memorial we would talk serious about it. And I said, okay. She said she would write it over to me. I was like, oh, thank you, you know, that's great. And a couple weeks after the memorial, my mom called and asked her for the status, you know, what about the truck? And she says, I said nothing of the sort. And so I just left it, my mom left it as that, and then said, well, what about the quilt?
So after she said to your mother, I'm not giving her the truck, then what you just said to me was, well, then we said, well, what about the quilt?
Correct.
Now, see, you just got to keep asking the questions.
Keep plowing away.
Keep plowing away. You're going to get it.
That's right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why didn't you just leave?
I was backing up, and she kept getting in my face.
So what did you call the police for?
I wanted to get the quilt back.
Now I got it.
And later today,
my daughter over here decides the curfew is 10 o'clock, you get off the phone. She's on the phone with
I'm not talking about curfew. That's not what I'm here about. Listen to me. I'm not a therapist.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to be a therapist.
No.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sophia Diaz says her stepmother, Donna Diaz, won't return a quilt that belonged to her late stepfather.
I just want to know one thing. Before we go any further, you still didn't answer my question. How did the police get involved in this case?
Okay, when my mom asked about the quilt, she said, come pick up your effing quilt, and she hung up. My mom tried to call back, and there was no answer. So I was like, okay, let's drive over there. So we drove over there, and she wasn't at her door. She was at her neighbor's door, which is Christine. And I knocked on Christine's door. Her daughter answered and said, oh, hi, Sophia, because I'm well aware of her as well. Her daughters know me, and she goes, oh, come on in. And I said, hi, Christine. I go, I have a video of Donna's, and Donna said to come pick up our effing quilt. She goes, my friend doesn't want to talk to you. She put Donna in her back room, and I said, she said that I can come pick it up. And then she goes, Christine had actually gotten in my face and said, get out of her house. I said, I'm not doing anything. Your daughter let me in your house.
How did the police get there?
She said she was going to call the cops on me because I was in her house, but her daughter let me in, and I said, you know what, that's okay, because she got face-to-face with me. And I said, I'll call them for you. I'm not doing anything wrong. And her husband was going to force me out of their front door in the apartment.
Why didn't you just leave?
I was backing up, and she kept getting in my face.
So what did you call the police for?
I wanted to get the quilt back.
Now I got it. Did anybody, any other members of their family call you for things that belong to your husband?
Friends had called on behalf of Kathy and asked me to be a good person and give up anything that she wants me to give.
Like what?
Like the quilt, the truck.
Was this before or after you gave her back her jewelry?
After.
Yeah, come on up.
I'm really dying to say something.
Well,
here.
I'll listen to you, madam.
Okay, I'm Sophia's mother, Kathy.
I understand who you are.
I don't feel that she has the right, because we did give it to Tony, with an exception that if anything were to happen to him...
I just explained to you, you cannot do that. Do you understand? You cannot give a gift with a rubber band on it. If Tony, who was the recipient of the gift, wanted his stepdaughter to have the quilt, was he lucid when you gave him the quilt?
He was very ill at the time.
Was he lucid is my question.
I don't know what that means, Your Honor.
Was he aware of his surroundings?
Yes.
If he was aware of his surroundings, then what he does is he creates a document. And a document says what and how he wants his property disposed of. But he did not. And the law says that without a will, she is his beneficiary. Period.
No matter
Did he have a will?
Agreed?
What?
No matter if she agreed at that moment? Yes, okay, I won't do that to Sophia. I won't, you know.
Listen to me. The quilt belongs to her. And what I don't understand is how a family, this extended family, which managed to maintain itself for all those years over a thing, could become a family where police are called to come to her home to take a piece of property, especially when she was really pretty nice. She said, I want everybody to have something of his, because we all cared about him. I'm going to give you some jewelry that was his. I'm going to give you all the mementos that you want from his life and things that you gave him that may be important to you, that belongs to her. Your case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm sorry it had to come down to this.
She is aware of the value it is to me. She knows how much it meant to me.
I love this quilt.
I didn't want to see this happen. I didn't want to make the outcome this way.
I want to keep it.
It's very hard.
I feel really bad because I love this family.
I want my dad to rest in peace.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Estrada versus Estrada. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Morning Bear Estrada is suing her daughter, 19-year-old waitress Deanna Estrada, for the cost of internet classes, allowing her to graduate high school, and for the cost of her prom dress. Deanna says it's not her responsibility to pay for school expenses.
Mrs. Estrada, this is your daughter, and you're suing her because you say that she owes you for some classes that she had to take over the internet in order to graduate from high school.
Yes, ma'am.
And she owes you for money that you laid out for her prom dress and for her yearbook and for the shoes for graduation and expenses for graduation, which she should pay you for. And that she showed her appreciation by taking off and leaving in the middle of the night to go live with her boyfriend a few months ago.
Correct.
And she's totally ungrateful. And your daughter says that you're her mom and you're supposed to take care of these things for her.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Okay. Did you tell your mom you would pay her back for laying out the money for these classes?
No, there was no agreement on for
I didn't
both
ask
parts.
you. There's just
No.
I asked you whether you told your mom you would pay her back.
No.
When did she tell you she would pay you back?
Basically from day one, Your Honor.
Well, explain that to me.
Basically, Deanna was
basically.
going to flunk. And her counselor said that in order for Deanna to graduate from high school, she needed basically these classes. She needed night school, regular class, plus the internet courses. Each class cost an arm and a leg. My daughter over here decides the curfew is 10 o'clock, you get off the phone. She's on the phone with
I'm not
boyfriend.
talking about curfew. That's
I
not what I'm
brought
here
that-
about. Listen to me. I'm
Yes.
not a therapist.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to be a therapist. You're here to try to demonstrate to me that you had an agreement with your daughter first to pay for those classes, because I tell you quite frankly, Miss Estrada, I'm shocked that you are pursuing money from her for these classes that enabled her to graduate from high school. But that's what parents do.
Exactly.
They make sure that their children graduate from high school in order to give them a start. And if they haven't done the right thing, or if they've stayed on the phone, or if they've come home late after curfew, kids do that. It's not terrific, but kids do that. But their parents still don't pursue them in court for education, especially high school education.
I understand that.
Good. So if you understand it, you want to
The
explain
reason
to me why you're here?
I'm suing my daughter is I didn't have to do any of this. I could have opted to let her flunk like any parent. But if you love your kids and you want them to succeed in life, you don't give up. I didn't have to spend that kind of money for my daughter. I wanted them to go out there and make it on their own. That's our job. She had.
You know, that's a lot of double speak that you're giving me, Mrs.
She
Estrada.
had she has
Miss
a good
Estrada,
mom. Yes, ma'am.
that's double talk.
Basically, Deanna sat in my house, Your Honor, and told her mom, the reason she doesn't show me respect is because she has none for me.
You think that you're going to garner respect for her by suing her?
No, ma'am, like I told her, I've earned the respect. I don't need it from my daughters. I've earned it.
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Why are you suing her for the money?
Because we both have the agreement in order for her to go to night school and internet courses that she wanted to graduate on time at the beginning. And I said, well, that's what I'm here. You know, if you want me to help you, she says, Mommy, once I get a job, I'll pay you back.
Excuse
from
me, that's
day
not true.
one.
Not true.
From day one.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Honestly, on my part, I don't think I should be paying her back because that is her job to help me graduate.
Did you tell her? Listen to me. Deanna, did you say to your mom, if you help me out so that I can graduate on time, when I get a job, I'll pay you back?
No, I did not.
Now let's talk about the prom dress. Did she or did she not go to the prom?
Yes, ma'am. She did go to the prom.
So what are you here for with the prom dress? I don't
As far
understand
as the
that.
prom dress, no, because when she took the prom dress, she's like, oh, I didn't want to go to my prom. I didn't need to go to my prom. The agreement was she wanted to go to her prom as long
I don't know,
as...
Mrs. Estrada.
Yes, ma'am.
Why are you here, madam?
I'm suing my daughter for the simple fact, when my daughter tells me she has no respect for her mother after putting the effort in.
Mrs. Estrada,
and the agreement was she was
Mrs.
supposed
Estrada,
to pay me.
I think that it's a very bad idea that you sue your daughter.
I understand, Your Honor.
And I think that you did no more for your daughter than any other parent should do for their child, which is ensure that they graduate from high school no matter what it takes, even if you have to put yourself into a little bit of debt.
I agree with you.
To provide her with the prom dress and prom tickets and whatever else it needs so that she could, in fact, go to the prom and have that as a memory. That's what every parent does. You don't have the right to come to court and sue your daughter.
I cannot even afford this, ma'am.
Listen to
Your
me.
Honor.
Then you shouldn't have done it.
That's just my point was...
Listen to me. Then you shouldn't have done it. If you can't afford it, don't do it.
That's why she said that she would pay me back if I would help her out. Yes, ma'am.
I don't believe that your daughter... I'm speaking. I don't believe that your daughter promised to pay you back for these things at the time they were done.
I have
and
proof.
whether or not...
I do have the proof.
Mrs. Strata, from me you get nothing.
Well, Your Honor,
zero. Listen to me, Mrs. Strata. Nothing. You did no more than what any parent of a child in high school is supposed to do, which is ensure that they graduate from high school, and if you didn't have the money to do it, you shouldn't have done it.
Exactly.
Good. Goodbye.
Excuse me, step out.
She was obligated to pay that. She's a parent.
People got this conception that we have to do it because we bring them into this world.
Their neighbor, factory worker Tony Bausman, for dental bills and pain and suffering. The Chambers claim Tony's son, 11-year-old Travis, hit their son in the face with a broomstick.
This is case number 298 on the calendar in the matter of Chamber versus Bausman. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Young folks, have a seat.
What's your name?
Travis.
Travis, I'd like you to come sit up here, please. Mr. and Mrs. Chambers, it is your claim that this young man, armed with a stick, hit your son in the mouth, causing his teeth to fall out.
Yes.
You want his father to pay for all of his medical bills and dental bills.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Bausman says that it was your son who instigated this problem. He's not responsible. So, Travis, how old are you, sir?
11.
Do you know this young man?
Yes.
What's his name?
Cody.
How long have you known Cody?
For a really long time.
No, don't look down. Look at me, right here.
For a really long time.
Do you remember when you hit him in the mouth with a stick?
Yes.
Why don't you tell me what happened? Don't look down at your feet. Look right over here.
My sister was...
Don't look, you're looking down. I want you to look right here.
My sister was playing with his sister, and he got on my sister's bike, and I came around the block and seen him on her bike and messing around and tormenting her.
You didn't see how he got the bike, is that right?
Well, I seen him take it from her when I was coming down the road.
Now you're looking over there. I want you to look over here. You said you came around and you saw him riding your sister's bike. I want you to be very, very careful, Travis. I have a truth meter right here. If somebody lies to me, this eye starts to flutter like this. Do you understand? So I don't care what story you told your father before. When you're in court, you tell only the truth. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Now, you said you came around the corner and you saw him riding your sister's bike.
Yes.
What did you say to him when you saw him riding your sister's bike?
I seen my sister getting upset, and I asked him to please get off the bike.
When you saw your sister getting upset, what was she doing?
She was sobbing and asking him to get off the bike. And
okay. And what did he say?
He said no, and he started laughing and messing around.
What happened next? Look, don't look down there. Look over here.
He started to ride on the bike, and then he threw it in the street in front of a van.
He got off the bike?
Yes.
Where was he when he got off the bike?
Not on the corner, but like on the side of his house.
And what did he do when he got off the bike?
He ghost rided it in the street.
What does ghost riding it in the street mean?
Run with the bike and then let it go.
What's the next thing that happened?
The van came up and locked its tires up.
What do you mean locked its tires up?
Tried to stop and it was squealing.
Okay. And then?
He got the bike
Don't
again.
look down. Look here.
He got the bike again, and I asked him to get off it again.
Where was he riding it? Up and down the block?
Yes.
Well, where was he again when you told him to get off the bike?
Riding away from me.
And what did he say? Did he say anything?
No.
Okay, because you were just about to say he said something, but he didn't say anything.
No.
He just rode away.
Yes.
Then what happened?
He was about at the alley, and I went across the street to tell somebody, but there wasn't enough time because he was messing with my sister again, so I grabbed
was your
something.
sister in the alley?
No.
Where was she?
He rode up by the corner by that time.
And where was your sister?
My sister was on the side of the house, and he was tormenting her again.
Well, tell me how he was tormenting her. What was he doing to torment her?
Teasing her.
What did he
the
do
bike.
to tease her?
He was saying, I want to see you get the bike back, and I'm not going to give it to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I grabbed this broomstick and asked him to get off it again, and he rode around, turned around, and came riding at me laughing. So I took the broomstick and I hit him.
Where did you hit him?
I was meaning to hit him right here. Not that hard, but
Where did you hit him?
In the face.
Did he get off the bike?
Yes.
Step down. Tell me your name.
Tony.
Tony, come up here, please. How old are you, Tony?
8.
Do you know Cody?
Yes.
Do you remember when your brother picked up a stick and hit him in the mouth?
Yes.
Was your brother frightened after he did that? Don't look down. Was he frightened that he had hit him in the mouth?
Yes.
What did he say to you after he hit Cody in the mouth?
He didn't say anything.
How did you know he was frightened?
I saw his face.
Do you think he knew he had done the wrong thing?
Yes.
Do you think he did the wrong thing?
Yes.
Tell me how Cody got the bike from you.
I put it on the sidewalk and put its kickstand down and went playing with his sister, and he took it.
Did he ask you if he could ride it?
No.
He just took it?
Yes.
And what happened when he took the bike?
My brother was coming around the corner, and he asked him to get off because he saw me getting mad, and he said no and started riding away.
Is that when he hit him with the stick?
No.
When did he hit him with the stick?
And then he came back and got off the bike, and then I went back over to play, and then my brother went over across the street. He got back on the bike, and then he started riding over the side of his house, and my brother came over from across the street, and he asked him to get off the bike. And so he got off the bike, and he started running with it and threw it in the street, and the van locked up its brakes. And I was trying to go get it. My brother holding me back, and he made Cody go get it, and then he got back on it after he got it. My brother hit him with a stick, and he went in and told his dad.
Good girl. Sit down, Tony.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You think your son was justified in hitting this young man in the mouth, causing him to lose his front teeth?
Yes.
No wonder your son doesn't know how to behave.
And later today,
I was paying her cash.
Show me receipts.
She never wrote me receipts. You're self-employed. Why would I give you a receipt?
If you're going to speak to Miss Wash, you want me to throw you out?
No, I'm sorry.
You want me to throw you out?
No, I do not.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tammy and Kevin Chambers say their neighbor, 11-year-old Travis Bousman, hit their son, 13-year-old Cody, in the face with a broomstick. Travis says Cody was teasing his little sister.
How old are you, Cody?
13.
How come you got on Tony's bike?
She said I could ride it.
When did she say you could ride it?
When she was playing with my sister. I asked her nicely if I could ride it. She said yeah.
Did her brother come by and tell you to get off the bike?
Yeah, and I told him that his sister said I could ride it.
Okay. Did you take the bike and throw it in the street?
No.
No, I didn't think so. Tell me what happened when he hit you in the mouth.
I was riding the bike in the street. Then I went, turned up into the driveway thing by the alley. Then he whacked me.
Did you lose any teeth?
Yeah, my front one.
Which tooth?
This one.
So that's a false tooth?
Not false. It's
It's a crown?
Yeah.
So you had to go to the dentist? How many times did you have to go to the dentist?
Probably around 3 or 4 times, maybe.
Okay. You have any other work that you have to have done?
Yeah, I think so. I have to go back to check the bottom teeth, see if they're damaged.
Okay, sit down. So, you think your son was justified in hitting this young man with a stick and knocking out his teeth? I'm asking you, now that you heard the story, you think your son was justified in picking up a broomstick and hitting this young man in the mouth, causing him to lose his front teeth?
I think he stuck up for his sister. That's what I would expect from my son.
So your answer is you think he was justified in picking up a stick and hitting him in the mouth over the bicycle. That's what I'm asking you, Mr. Bozeman.
Yes.
Yes. No wonder your son doesn't know how to behave. Listen to me. You had no right to hit him with a stick. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Good. Did your father tell you that?
Yes.
So if you told him that, how come you're not telling me that today, Mr. Bozeman? If you told him that he had no right to hit him with a stick, why do you stand there and assume the stupid position today that he was sticking up for his sister, and that's an appropriate response for a child to assault somebody with a weapon because he was teasing his sister, even if that happened? Are you going to answer me?
Yes.
Then answer me.
I feel that he was sticking up for his sister. The stick, maybe not to go that far, but sticking up for his sister, throwing the bike in the road, that was very serious to me.
Yes, I agree with you, sir.
Out in front of a van to go get it, that could have been her life.
Listen to me. Listen to me. That's a lot of who shot John. That part of the story was very well put together by both of your children using the exact same words. Wheels locked, truck, van, wheels locked. That didn't happen. The riding around on the bike happened. Maybe the teasing happened. Maybe your son said to him, get off the bike. And he said, I'm not getting off the bike. And then your daughter got upset. What I'm asking you is, was the assault justified?
He shouldn't use a stick, no.
Right. And if that was not justified, sir, you are responsible for these medical and dental bills. Do you understand that?
Yes. May I say something else?
Sure.
It was wrong for her to corner my two children belligerently, swearing at them, and they didn't make that up.
No.
And she was drinking.
No.
They didn't make that up.
Listen
And she did come after my wife, swinging, and her husband pulled her back into the house, and she did make my children cry at that point.
So, that has nothing to do with this case.
Okay.
If she behaved badly, that's something that she has to deal with. That's not an excuse for his behavior. You're not supposed to make excuses for your son's behavior that was wrong. He certainly understands the consequence of what he did. Don't you?
Yes.
So, while he has a right to stand up for his sister, he has no right to assault someone with a deadly instrument. You get it?
Got it.
You get it?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,087. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She was cornered at the house the whole time.
I didn't see the daughter.
Making her cry.
The only one that was there was the boy, and I told him to go get his mother.
She was yelling at us.
Me and the mother got into it.
She said the B word and the F word.
She's the one that called me I don't know if I'm allowed to say this.
I don't think I had the right to hit him.
I wasn't teasing the young girl.
He didn't have the right to push my sister around and call her names or throw her bike in front of a van either.
I do believe my kids.
I guess you can't protect them in all the ways.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Washington versus Shonen, step forward, please.
Salon owner Daniel Washington is suing her former co-worker, manicurist Gianna Shonen, for unpaid booth rent. Daniel says Gianna quit without paying her tab.
Miss Washington, according to your complaint, you own a beauty salon. The defendant rented a booth from you in that salon. You claim she left owing you rent. Some $300 is what your claim is. And Ms. Shonen says that you wanted her out. She left. She owes you nothing. When did Ms. Shonen come to you to rent a space?
I believe it was in April or May.
When did she start to rent the space?
I believe April.
And what was the rental agreement?
The rental agreement was every Saturday when she came in, rent was due $75 on Saturday morning.
$75 a week?
Yes.
Starting when?
In April.
Okay. When was your last day at the salon?
It was the end of July.
When I got there, I had 65 clients that moved with me from a previous salon. By the end of the time of the salon, I only had 5 clients left. I have my bank statement stating the money that I had made when I was getting there and how it declined.
Your Honor, she's lying.
My last day at the salon was because I went to go put my booth rent in on a Saturday evening.
She's lying.
She locked me out of the salon. She had changed the keys. I called her that evening. It was very late, and she told me that she locked me out because she hadn't spoke to me.
Okay. Miss Washington, at some point, you boxed up her things. When was that?
The last weekend in July.
Now, what do you claim she owes you rent for?
Booth rental. I have
booth rental. How much?
$300.
From when?
From June the 5th, she never paid booth rent. June the 12th, she never paid rent.
Okay.
June the 19th, I went out of town. She told me that morning, I'm going to come in and pay the manager. Don't worry about it.
Keep going.
June the 26th, she never paid rent again. She would show up and do clients, and we allowed her to do clients because she was thinking that we gave her a 5-day notice.
I was on commission during...
Shh. She was not on commission at that time. She's lying.
I don't know what commission is as opposed to booth rent.
Booth rent is you pay a flat fee every week. Commission is you pay out of everything you make.
So between the 5th of June and the 26th of June, how much money did you give her?
Your Honor, I was on commission during that time. When she took me off of commission,
I didn't take her
off of commission. She told me she could not afford to have me on commission in her salon. In June, I was paying her cash. I was paying her cash.
Show me receipts.
She never wrote me receipts.
Everyone in the salon has a receipt book, and they come to us and put the receipt in.
So really,
you're self-employed. You're self-employed. Why would I give you a receipt?
If you're going to speak to Miss Washington, you want me to throw you out?
No, I'm sorry.
You want me to throw you out?
No, I do not.
Do you have receipts from June 5th to June 26th?
The last, when I stopped writing checks, that's the last receipts that I have.
Why did you stop writing checks?
The copies of my bank
You're going to be gone. This is your last chance. Last chance. And you know, when I say last chance, it is your last chance. You got it?
Yes.
I'm serious with you. We don't talk out. This is a court. This is not a tea dance.
Yes, Your Honor.
You said that before.
I had went on commission. That's why when she
Just a second, Ms. Schoen. In May, were you on commission or booth rent?
In May, I was on booth rent.
And at the end of April, were you on booth rent?
In April, I was on booth rent.
So what you're telling me is Miss Washington, who was in business to make money, said to you, well, you can't pay me booth rent, which is what I want, which is $75, but I'm going to allow you, because your clientele is not so good, I'm going to allow you to go on commission, which means I'm going to make less money for the entire month of June. She's going to make less money. Is that right? Is that what you want me to believe? Is that, I just want to know, is that what you want me to believe?
Yes, Your Honor, that's the truth.
And then in the entire month of June, how much money did you give her?
It's all written down inside my book on the money I made.
Can I speak, Your Honor?
Yes.
Every single time that she made money, she only every single time said, this is what I can give you. This is what I can give you.
Just a second. Miss Washington, I believe you.
Every single time.
I believe you.
I have copies of checks when I paid her.
Do you have the
rent.
Shut up!
We started having a conflict after my
Listen to me.
dropped.
I do not believe you that this lady who is in business to make money would say to you, you don't have to pay that $75 a week because you don't have a good enough business to pay $75 a week.
Well,
pay less than $75 a week. So, all right. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $300.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She started off irresponsible.
Security officer David Abbasi for breaking his ankle during a fight. David says James attacked him.
Now, this is case number 80 on the calendar in the matter of Frederick versus Abbasi. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mr. Frederick, the defendant is your girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, and it is your claim that you both found yourself at the same bar and that Mr. Abbasi assaulted you at the bar, causing you to fracture your ankle. You want him to pay all of your expenses relative to that assault and also some punitive damages. Mr. Abbasi says that you were the aggressor that night. He didn't see you injure yourself, and if it wasn't for your aggressive behavior, none of this would have happened. That's your defense. Is that right?
Yes.
When did this incident occur?
The night of February 7th, approximately 10:30.
And what was the name of the establishment that you were visiting?
The Horseshoe Pub.
What time did you arrive there?
Approximately 10 o'clock, I believe.
When you got there, was the defendant there?
Yes, I did know who he was. I'd never met him before that time.
Had you been to this bar before?
Yes, not very much. I don't go out to bars very often.
What prompted you to go there this evening?
Oh, just to get out for a little while. I was supposed to meet my girlfriend there a little later.
Well, did you meet her there?
Yes, she came in probably about an hour later.
Before she arrived, you didn't know who this gentleman was?
Right.
When your girlfriend arrived, she advised you who this was?
Yes, once she saw him.
And you didn't know who he was, sir, when he arrived there, is that right?
I didn't.
How long has this young lady been your girlfriend? Or how long had she been your girlfriend on February 7th?
For 4 months, approximately.
How long had you been separated from her?
About 3 months.
You mean there was a month overlap?
Yeah, I believe they were 3 months in the relationship, not 4 months.
Did she leave you for him?
Yeah.
How long had you been together?
About 1.5 years.
Were you upset?
Yeah.
Had you lived together?
Yeah.
So she left you...
She was cheating on me.
With him?
Yeah.
And left the home that you shared to move in with you?
Yes. She wasn't cheating, Your Honor.
But she moved in with you immediately after she left him?
Correct, yes.
Okay. All right, so tell me what happened.
Well, on that night...
After your girlfriend arrived. We're at the point where your girlfriend arrived at the bar.
Okay. After she arrived, I noticed, well, she had told me who Mr. Abbasi was. At that point, then, I acknowledged him.
How did you acknowledge him?
Well, after my girlfriend had told me who he was.
How did you acknowledge him, is my question. Did you shake his hand? Did you go over and say, hello, I'd like to introduce myself? How did you acknowledge him?
No, nothing like that.
Just tell me how you acknowledged him.
I just looked at him. That was it.
Okay.
After that, I didn't say anything, didn't do anything. She wanted to leave, which I probably should have taken her.
That was very smart of her.
Yes, it was.
She said, he's here and I want to leave.
Yes.
And you said?
I wanted to stick or I wanted to stay.
Me?
I should have went with her, decision.
Yeah.
Afterwards, probably, I'd say 15, 20 minutes afterwards, Mr. Abbasi just started to look my way, and at both Lucy and I, and adjacent to him was a lady, and he was more or less smiling, laughing, pointing at us, and I just wanted to know what was going on. So I more or less shrugged my hands up. And
How
that's
far
when,
were you from him when you did that?
Maybe 20 feet.
It's not far.
Not very far, right. After that, basically, he got up in anger. At that point, he started really prancing or almost running towards me on the other side of the bar. And I didn't know what he wanted. I didn't know if he wanted to fight. I didn't know if he wanted to talk. So I got up and I met him halfway through the bar. At that point, I lost him in the crowd. There were a lot of people there. And after that, he shoved me after he saw me, and I didn't know where he was. I fell back into the crowd, and I tried to regain my balance. And after I tried to regain my balance, he shoved me again. This time, I fell backwards in an awkward way and broke my ankle.
Now, your version of the events, Mr. Abbasi.
He waved me over to fight.
Show me how he did that.
By putting his hands over like that.
He went like that?
Yeah, calling me, saying he's going to kick my butt. We met simultaneously.
I don't want you to make things up as you're going along, Mr. Abbasi. Listen to me. Are you telling me from across the bar you heard him say something to you?
No.
Or are you just showing me this?
I heard him say he's going to kick my butt and wave me over. And then...
And what did you do?
We both simultaneously...
No. So he waved you over to come over because he wanted to fight with you.
Yeah.
And you being the intelligent, sober guy that you are...
I wasn't sober.
Oh, you weren't? Well, that accounts for something. So you were drunk.
Yeah.
So he waved you over, and you went over to fight with him.
Well, I was just thinking we're going to stick chests and try and talk it down, but then when I seen his fist come in, I had to push him.
Your Honor, that's a lie.
No, I don't want to hear you.
I'm sorry.
So continue. Let's keep going. So you got over there. He's waving you on, saying he's going to kick your butt. You go over there to butt chests with him because that's all you thought he was going to do. You saw him fist up his hand, and so you pushed him.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's how he hurt his ankle. If he hurt his ankle at all.
He claims that my shove threw him 10 feet across the room into a pool table, causing his ankle to break in 3 spots.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You visit your troubles on me and the taxpayer because this process cost money. And because you decided to be a macho jerk, you cost the taxpayer money.
And later today,
for slow play, any reasonable experienced golfer would walk to their ball so that you don't delay play, because slow play is the #1 problem with golfing.
No, the #1 problem with golfing is getting hit with a golf ball.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. James Frederick says he was attacked by his girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, David Abbasi. David says James instigated the fight.
Now I'll hear you. Step up. Who are you?
I'm the bartender that night.
Let me ask you this. What's your last name?
Banks.
Miss Banks, you know Mr. Abbasi and his girlfriend. Is that right?
Yes.
And how long have you seen Mr. Frederick in the bar?
I only had seen him that one night.
Where do you come from?
Palmdale.
And this bar is in Palmdale?
Yes.
How many bars are there in Palmdale?
4 or 5.
Mr. Frederick, what prompted you to go to that bar this evening? Because you went there by yourself, and you were meeting Lucy there, right?
Yes.
But Lucy was the one who suggested the Horseshoe Club?
Actually, I was.
Really? And Lucy didn't say to you, no, I don't want to go there because I used to go there with David?
Well, that was brought up, but I reassured her it was all right.
You're a troublemaker.
I didn't see any problem. I didn't know David.
You didn't see any problem? Mr. Frederick, if you weren't looking for trouble for one reason or another, sir, you wouldn't have gone to the bar if she gave you prior notice that this is a place where David would hang out. And when she arrived and she saw him there and she said to you, let's go, I feel uncomfortable. And you said, not me, I'm not going anywhere. I want to sit here. So despite the fact that she was uncomfortable and that the presence of the two of you was just an exacerbating circumstance, you decided to stay. Now, I'm not sure about on a legal level, but on a moral level, you got what you deserved. You look for trouble, it's going to find you. You know, there's certain things your grandmother says to you that are true. And one of them is, if you look for trouble, you're going to find it. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
But you visit your troubles on me and the taxpayer because this process cost money. And because you decided to be a macho jerk, you cost the taxpayer money, whether it's in this court and any other court. You're gobbling up court time for people who really have cases over which they had no control. Whereas you had plenty of control. I didn't go to another one of the 4 bars in Palmdale. Or when you went in there and you saw him there, you knew who he was, and Lucy said, let's go. You got up, paid for the drink, and you leave. Right?
Right. That's what my plan was, but I didn't take fast enough action.
Okay. Did you file a police complaint, Mr. Frederick?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it, please.
I filed that the day after.
Why the day after, sir?
I was going to file it at the bar, and had I done so, he would have been incarcerated. I wanted to take care of my ankle. It was hurting and it was broken.
So you went immediately from the bar to the emergency room?
Yes.
Okay. Well, evidently they did an investigation, and they didn't arrest Mr. Abbasi for assault. Do you know why, sir?
Basically, they couldn't find him, and DA didn't want to prosecute because it's a typical bar fight. They see it a lot, so they didn't feel it.
Because it's just as possible that you lost your balance because you were drunk.
I wasn't that drunk, Your Honor.
How do I know that? You don't have to be that drunk to trip. Mr. Frederick, I said something to you before, sir, and what I said, you may sit down. What I said to you before is if you look for trouble, you're going to find it. Now, I don't necessarily think that it was Mr. Abbasi's intention to get into a confrontation with you that evening, but it is clear to me that it was your intention to get into a confrontation with him. I say that for the following reasons. I am now summing up. Your girlfriend told you that she was going to meet you that evening. You discussed going to the Horseshoe Bar. She said, I don't think I want to go to the Horseshoe Bar because that's where David hangs out. You said, I don't care, I'll meet you there, don't be ridiculous. You go there, and sure enough, when she shows up an hour later, after you've had a couple of drinks, she says to you, I don't want to stay because David's at the other side of the bar. And you say, I don't care. Let's see what goes down if we stay here. It seemed to me, Mr. Frederick, you got the girl. You should be a happy guy. You shouldn't be looking for trouble. The girl that you're living with, the girl that you're happy with says, I'm not comfortable here. You pick yourself up and you leave. Chose not to do that. He pushed you. You fell. You broke your ankle. That's an accident. Goodbye.
Parties are excused when they step out.
The man's got issues where he can't get over his ex-girlfriend.
He wanted to show me he has her.
I didn't think he was, you know, a violent guy.
She wants to see us fighting over each other.
He was lucky he got away with this.
I'm just glad justice is done.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Ng versus Riley. Step forward, please.
Eye care professional Monica Ng is suing her one-time golf partner, technical consultant Steve Riley, for medical and dental bills. Monica says she was hit in the face by Steve's golf ball.
Missing, according to your complaint, you were playing golf and you were in a foursome?
Yes.
And Mr. Riley was in your foursome?
Yes.
And you got hit with a golf ball that he sliced. You want him to pay for all of your medical bills, you had dental problems, et cetera, et cetera. And Mr. Riley says, sometimes happens when you play golf. Not every shot's a perfect shot. It's part of the risk you assume when you play the game. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
When did this happen, Miss Ng?
On January 31st at the Lakewood Country Club.
And how long have you been playing golf with Mr. Riley?
I've never played with him before.
So you were teamed up that day?
By the starter at the country club.
What hole were you playing when this incident happened?
The 9th hole.
And who teed off first?
The guys teed off first, and then I teed off last because I tee off from the ladies' tees.
After you teed off, everyone left the tee, is that right?
Yes, we all walked to our balls.
And was your ball in front of Mr. Riley's ball?
It was horizontal, diagonal to his ball.
And he shot first?
Yes.
And you were watching him?
Yes, I was watching him the whole time.
Why didn't you stand behind where he was?
For slow play, any reasonable experienced golfer would walk to their ball so that you don't delay play, because slow play is the #1 problem with golfing.
No, the #1 problem with golfing is getting hit with a golf ball.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Monica Ng says golf partner Steve Riley owes for medical and dental bills. Monica says they were on the 9th hole when Steve's golf ball hit her in the face.
So when I was reading your complaint, and I've been out on a golf course, although I am not a proficient golfer, since I don't know who I'm playing with, as you didn't know who you were playing with, and you're not sure of their skill, I wouldn't get into a position where you were anywhere in harm's way. I would stand well behind that person.
I felt I was not standing in a location where I was in harm's way.
But you were, right? Because you didn't play golf with him before. You didn't know whether he was a good player or a bad player, whether he sliced, whether he was straight, whatever. But you don't think that you have any responsibility to worry about yourself?
Yes, I have the responsibility to worry about myself, but I was standing in a location next to my ball. I was watching him the whole time.
You think he aimed at you?
No, he did not aim at me. It was an accident, but still, he's liable for any damages or injury caused by his actions, as stated in the golf course rules at the Lakewood Country Club.
Well, I'll take a look at the rules of the Lakewood Country Club and see what they say.
Safety practices.
Let me see what the safety practices are. Yeah, well, this says that any person entering or playing on the golf course assumes full responsibility for his or her personal safety. That's you. And property. Players are liable for any accident, injury, and/or property damage caused by their actions. Well, you're saying that his actions caused you to be injured.
Correct.
I'm saying your actions caused you to be injured. Miss Ng, my dear, when you play golf, there's a golf ball. That golf ball doesn't always go where it's supposed to go. Have you watched professionals play golf?
Yes.
Have you seen professionals sometimes slice their ball and it goes into a gallery?
Yes.
You think that they're liable if their ball hits somebody? They're not. Players not liable. That's what the game is about. Somebody hits a very hard ball. Sometimes it goes where it's supposed to go. Sometimes it doesn't go where it's supposed to go. If it always went where it was supposed to go, nobody would watch the game.
We have a verbal agreement after the injury. He was very apologetic for hitting me.
Yes.
And he gave me a cellular number so I can contact him so that I can get his home address to mail him the medical expenses.
Did you say that you would cover the medical expenses, Mr. Riley?
What I said was that if she wanted to go to the emergency room right then, I would help her with expenses. I did not say I would cover a week off of work. I did not say...
Absolutely not.
Right.
You're not responsible for a week
Right.
off from work. You're not responsible for her pain and suffering. You're not responsible for any of that.
Right.
So did you give him the medical bill from the emergency room?
I had not received it yet when I wrote him that certified letter.
Fine. What was your bill from the emergency room? $602 with the emergency bills. Is that right, sir? Now that you agreed to pay, according to you.
Yes.
Fine. Anything else?
Yes. A few months later, I noticed that the back of my tooth was swollen, and I went to the dentist, and that's when they told me that I have ligament damage due to trauma.
Could be. That's not what he agreed to pay for. He agreed to pay for your emergency room bills. But for the fact that he agreed to pay for the emergency room bills, he would not be responsible. You assumed the risk when you got on the golf course of whatever happens when you play golf, unless, of course, he picked up his club and flung the club in anger, or if he hit you with his club, or if he ran you over with a golf cart. That you don't assume the risk, but you do assume the risk that somebody may not hit the ball straight, so you have to make sure that you don't put yourself in harm's way. And if being in a position where you were a little bit of a slow player is more important than keeping yourself out of harm's way, that's a choice that you make. He can't guarantee where his golf ball's going to go. If he could, he'd be Tiger Woods' partner, right?
Absolutely.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $602. Thank you.
Suing the father of her daughter, parts manager Fabian Grogan, for the cost of their child's expenses. Fabian is countersuing, claiming Sandy won't let him see his daughter.
Now, this is case number 188 on the calendar in the matter of Wyatt versus Grogan. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Miss Wyatt, you have a baby. Mr. Grogan, I assume, has been established as being the father of that child. You say he's responsible for some expenses involving the child's birth and initial few months of the child's life because he's now paying child support. So I have a few questions, Miss Wyatt. When did you and Mr. Grogan have this relationship?
We had started the relationship in the summer of 2003 when he moved back to Iowa from South Carolina.
Had you known him before?
Yes.
For how long?
Approximately 6 years.
Did you have an exclusive relationship with him?
Not at that time, no.
In 2003, did you have an exclusive relationship
Yes, we did.
with him? Did you discuss marriage?
No.
So this pregnancy was an unplanned pregnancy?
Correct.
Now, I know that this is a silly question, but how did that happen?
Failed birth control.
Failed birth control. Because it's been my experience, and I've been around for a long time, that there are no accidents.
Correct.
There are only on purposes that look like accidents. And these on purposes usually end up with you having to raise a child by yourself. Mr. Grogan, who is not totally without responsibility,
No,
right,
ma'am.
Mr. Grogan?
No, ma'am.
Because it takes two to have precaution. And there's nothing wrong with having double precaution, right?
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't want to have a family. You have other children?
Yes, ma'am. I do have one other daughter.
And you?
I have 2 boys.
And how old are your 2 boys?
7 and 9 years old.
And where's their father?
Their father lives in the same town that we do.
Were you married to him?
Yes.
For how long?
7 years.
He pay child support?
Yes, he does.
How much child support does he pay?
$670 a month, and just recently stopped when he stopped working.
He pays $670 a month for 2 children?
Correct.
And how much child support do you pay, Mr. Grogan?
If you include the expense for insurance, it is right at $600 a month.
For 1 child?
Yes, ma'am.
Gets expensive when you're not careful.
Yes, ma'am.
So, how old is your daughter, Miss Wyatt?
11 and a half months.
And tell me, what expenses do you think Mr. Grogan owes you for?
When we were together, before he left down for South Carolina for the birth of his first daughter, he had promised to pay for any baby items that we would need.
What do you mean to pay for the birth of his first daughter?
He moved back to Iowa in the end of August of '03, and he had had another woman in South Carolina pregnant due to have his child the end of April.
You had a very fertile period there, Mr. Grogan.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
We started working together, we started a relationship, and I got pregnant with our daughter. In November, I told him of that, and he said that he had still planned on going down to see the birth of his first child. He had no intentions of staying there. With her, it was just a one-night thing, and he was only going to stay down there for 2 or 3 weeks while she was born, and then he was going to come back up here, take care of our daughter, and stay with me.
That's not exactly.
He did not come back. It was one excuse after the other of, it'll be in a couple more weeks, it'll be a couple
Miss
more
White,
weeks.
you've not have 2 children. You understand that a commitment means, honey, would you marry me? I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to have a family with you. I want to live with you. I want to take care of you. I want you to take care of me. That's a commitment. Then after you do that, then you think about having a baby. You don't do it the other way around. You do it the other way around. You're just looking for trouble.
I actually offered the commitment, Your Honor. I asked for her. I told her I would pay for move her and the boys down to South Carolina. I said, give it an honest 6 months. I said, if you do not like it, I will move you back. I even told her that we could get married. At this point, her mother had decided that she hated me. She wouldn't defend me with the family. I called her every day. I wish I had the phone records. Unfortunately, I don't. But I called her every day from the day I left almost until the day that Lauren was born, just to find out that 2 to 3 weeks before, just to find out that she had already had another boyfriend and that he was moving in with her.
Mr. Grogan, you weren't married to this woman in, where is it?
South Carolina.
South Carolina
No,
either.
No, ma'am.
So you already knew that it was possible for somebody to get pregnant without benefit of marriage, right? I mean, even
Yes,
I, at my age,
Yes,
know
ma'am.
that. And so it would seem to me that you would have been smarter in this relationship. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
You already had one lady pregnant out of wedlock expecting a child, and then you have another relationship in Iowa, so it would seem to me at that point you might want to wear 2 galoshes instead of 1. Are we understanding each
Yes,
other,
ma'am,
Mr.
I
Grogan?
understand that.
What?
2 galoshes, I like it. I like it.
You know, make sure that it's foolproof. Because it caused an awful lot of pain and a lot of discomfort. Doesn't mean you're off the hook. Because ultimately, you're the one with the responsibility. I assume this is your mother?
Yes, it is.
And I assume that your mother has some sort of responsibility?
Yes, she does.
She didn't ask for the responsibility. She didn't even enjoy the event. But she has all the downside.
Correct.
That's selfish. Very selfish. Now, what kind of expenses did you have for the child? Give me an idea.
We had to buy a baby bed, car seat, clothing, diapers, formula, everything that a baby needs, strollers.
And did you pay for that?
Yes, I did.
And how much was it?
For everything that was purchased before her birth was $1,658, and I have receipts.
I don't want to know what was purchased before her birth. What were her expenses after she was born?
After her birth were the same things. Clothes that she would outgrow, she would need more clothes, she would need
So how much
more
did you spend?
formula. After she was born, I have no idea.
From age 0 to 7 months when you started to support the child?
Probably close to $2,000 to $3,000 a month.
Where'd you get that? $2,000 to $3,000?
Not a month, I'm sorry, the entire time.
And where did you get that money from?
I have borrowed money from my mother, my grandmother, my boyfriend helps out.
Well, he ought to. He's living there.
It's not his daughter.
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'd worked out of my home as a daycare provider. It was
Why
my
can't you
full-time
do that
job.
now?
I am starting that back up right now.
Well, when you start that, are you going to go to court and ask that his child support be reduced? Absolutely not. Right?
No, I won't.
So let's not get there.
And later today,
I went up to Desiree and asked if I could use her cell phone, and she said I could.
And then what did you do?
And then I remember giving it back to her.
That's not what you say in your answer. So get it together.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandy Wyatt says the father of her daughter, Fabian Grogan, owes for their child's miscellaneous expenses. Fabian says Sandy is keeping him from his daughter.
What kind of work do you do, Miss Wyatt?
I work at home, raising my children.
So I would assume this $600 a month the court directed him to pay and didn't allocate any amount of money to you for the child support because you're a stay-at-home mom. Is that right? Well, I want to tell you something. In my world of the law, If you choose to have a third child, you cannot choose to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom. That's not a prerogative for you. If you choose to have another child, that was your choice. You can't say you are totally responsible for the child's support because I'm going to have this baby and I'm going to stay home and take care of it. You don't have that right. You have 50%, in my world, you have 50% of the obligation to support that child. In this country, mothers and fathers stand on equal footing. They have equal rights, and that's what the Supreme Court says. They have equal rights, then they have equal responsibilities. And equal responsibility means that you pay half of the support. And the court has determined that the child needs $600 a month support. Cut that in half, because $300 a month of that belongs to you. You choose not to work, he's not going to pay for you not working. Do I make myself clear?
Yes.
3 times 7 is $2,100. Not $5,000. $2,100 is what I attribute to him for the child support. Is that reasonable?
Yes, ma'am.
Just a second. That's reasonable. Otherwise, get a job. You have a financial responsibility. You may have the 100% emotional responsibility, Miss Wyatt. That's your choice. You chose to do that.
Right. And I also had 100% financial responsibility for all the things that had to be purchased that before she was born, that he promised me, and he had conversations with my mom on the telephone promising to pay for these things, which he paid nothing.
There, he's going to pay $2,100. Period. For the first 7 months of the child's support. Now he's going to pay for the next 20 years all of the child support. Because when was the last time you held a full-time job?
Full-time?
Full-time.
It's been
that
over
you can
a year.
prove by what?
It's been over a year.
And how long did you have that job?
I had worked out of my home as a daycare provider for over 6 years. That
Well,
was
why
my
can't you
full-time
do that
job.
now?
I am starting that back up right now.
Well, when you start that, are you going to go to court and ask that his child support be reduced? You're going to go back to court like a fair person and say, I am now working full-time, so this child support order of $600 should be reduced? Absolutely not. Right?
No, I won't.
So let's not get there. Now, you want to tell me about this nonsense visit that you're counterclaiming about?
Like I said, I couldn't be there for Lauren. Well, I found out about Joe before Lauren's birth, so I did not make it for Lauren's birth. I had made those arrangements. But at Christmas, I cashed about $1,200 worth of checks, which I spent the entire amount on a trip going to Iowa to be able to see Lauren. As far as I'm concerned, the price of seeing Lauren is every minute is priceless. You couldn't put a price on that.
Good. So how many hours did you see her?
8 at max.
Good. Did you have a good time?
I did. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Good.
But she was supposed to make Lauren available to me. She told me I could see her as much as I wanted to. She did not make her available to me. She kept me at bay.
Do you have a visitation order now, sir?
The only orders I know of are just the child support order.
Well, let me tell you this, Mr. Grogan. You have the absolute right to seek a fixed order of visitation with your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And you should have a fixed order of visitation so that you can see her regularly. But that requires you to go to court, be proactive. You need not even get a lawyer with regard to that. By the way, when did you have a DNA test, sir?
I have not.
Why not?
I fully believe that she's my daughter. I have no reason to dispute the fact that she's my daughter.
Okay. I'm glad that you think that you're absolutely positive that this is your child. But I think it's always wise for people, especially in circumstances where they are not married and they have not been living together during the course of their relationship, to be 100% certain that the child for whom you are paying support is your biological child. We understand each other, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
I cannot tell you how many cases, unfortunately, that have appeared before me over the years where people are certain, both parties are certain, that this is a biological child of theirs. And it turns out that something else happened. You understand what I'm saying to you? What?
I was just going to comment on his counterclaim. When he had drove up here from South Carolina in this alleged $1,200 visit, he drove clear across the country with no driver's license.
Listen to me. Listen to me. That's not the issue, madam. The issue is he drove cross-country and he was met with a few obstacles to visitation. He has to have an order of visitation so that you do not fix the time when he can see his child. The court fixes that time. That's what he needs.
Your Honor.
And I'm telling you, while he's there, you ought to ask for a DNA test. Now go back to court and get an order.
I'm going to have to. The last conversation that we had, she told me I would never see Lauren again without a court order.
Oh, good. You see,
he threatened me into dropping this lawsuit.
Now I've come 2,500 miles. I'd like to be able to see my daughter while I'm here. I mean, I haven't seen her since Christmas. I try to find
now?
Just
a second. You mean now? Where is she?
Upstairs somewhere.
Oh, good. We will arrange for that visit. We can arrange for that visit. We can arrange in my chambers. We can arrange for the visit. You have no objection to that, do you? You have no objection to that, do you?
If he's sober, then no, I don't.
Just a second. Well, he's good. He's not going to...
He's very rarely sober,
Listen to me. Listen to me. He's sober now, and he's going to see the child in chambers. Do you have any objection to that?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Very good. So I want you to get the child, bring the child down to my chambers. We'll arrange for you to have a half-hour visit.
Thank you.
Reasonable?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,100 and the counterclaims dismissed. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
That's his child. Well, it's my child, but he helped bring her into the world.
Of course, I love her very much, and I hope I get to see her as much as possible.
He can just go around the country and continue making babies and not take care of them.
With her mother, I just don't think she's going to allow that without dragging it back into court.
Any man that does that isn't worth marrying.
And that's not good for me or the baby.
Women should watch out for this guy.
Lauren and I got to spend 30 minutes together, as the judge promised. They loved every minute of it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Perez versus Snyder, Pendolino, and Miadors. Step forward, please.
Office Assistant Kimberly Perez is suing her daughter's schoolmate, 13-year-old Brianna Snyder, and her mother, homemaker Stacy Pendolino Miadors, for the cost of a missing cell phone. Kimberly says her daughter loaned the phone to Brianna, who in turn loaned it to her friend.
Who's Desiree?
Right here.
Could you step up, please? And you're Brianna?
Yes.
All right. The two mothers can sit down. I don't need you here for this.
Thank you.
All right. Desiree, you were in school.
Yes, ma'am.
You had a cell phone.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what happened.
School was over. We were all hanging out outside. She came up to me and asked if her friend could use it, and Yesenia Hernandez.
And you said?
I said, yeah, and I walked over there with her and gave him the cell phone.
Gave who the cell phone?
Krista.
And?
And then she used it, and I was over standing a couple feet away talking to some friends, and then she went up to Brianna, or Krista, and said, Desi said I can use her cell phone, and then she walked away with it.
What?
I went up to Desiree and asked if I could use her cell phone, and she said I could.
Just a second. What you say in your answer is, you went up to Desiree and asked if you could use her cell phone.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that what happened?
Yes, Your Honor.
And she said?
Yes.
And did you use her cell phone?
Yes, Your Honor.
Who did you call?
I called my grandmother and my mom.
Okay. Did she call you from the cell phone?
Yes, she did. You're
Good.
right.
And then what did you do?
And then I remember giving it back to her.
That's not what you say in your answer. So get it together. You said in your answer, I used the cell phone, and then my friends asked if they could make a call too. You remember saying that?
Yes.
Now you remember that?
Yes.
Better? And you let your friend have the phone.
Yes, because she said they could.
Just a minute. That's what you said. You said then you gave the phone. You want me to read it to you, what you said? You said, quote, I passed the phone to my friends and left school. That's what you wrote. Is that true?
Yes, Your Honor.
I know you're 100% sure that it's true.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you say, I have no idea who had it last after I left school.
Yes, Your Honor.
Right? So your defense is, it's not my fault. My two other friends had the phone. Let her go find out where the phone is. That's your defense. Wrong! Step up. Do you understand why she's wrong?
No, Your Honor.
Well, maybe I can help you. Because I gather you don't understand why she's wrong. So maybe I can give you a lesson. Do you want a car?
Yes, I do.
Do you have a best friend?
Yes, I do.
What's your best friend's name? You don't have to think so hard. If you have a best friend, your best friend has to have a name, madam. What's your best friend's name?
Becky.
Becky? Becky comes to you and says, Stacy, I have an emergency. Can I borrow your car for a half hour, right?
Yes.
Say, sure, you know, my best friend. Take the car keys and you give her the car. You say, use it, you know, just bring it back. And Becky leaves, takes the car, and when she's out, she finishes her emergency, and she runs into her friend, Charlie. Charlie says, you know what? You got a car, I really need a car. Could I borrow the car to go to OTB? And your best friend, Becky, says, sure, take the car. And he takes the car, and he wraps it around the tree. You think Becky's responsible for your car?
Yes.
Of course. Because you loaned the car to
Becky.
She loaned the phone to your daughter. Your daughter had the responsibility of returning the phone to her. She didn't do it. Now do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Perfect. How much did you pay for the phone?
It was $199.99, Your Honor.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Friend, bartender Melissa Doyle, for the return of money she fraudulently accepted from him. Richard says she led him to believe that she wanted a relationship.
Quiet in the courtroom, please. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Now, this is case number 235 on the calendar in the matter of Langlands versus Doyle. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Mr. Langlands, how old are you, sir?
27.
Who is this lady?
This is my mother.
Ms. Doyle, how old are you?
28.
Who is this lady?
She's the general manager at the extended stay hotel I was staying at.
Mr. Langlands, how many children do you have?
1.
And that child you have with Ms. Doyle?
Yes, ma'am.
And Ms. Doyle has how many children?
3.
And only one of them is his?
Yes.
Do all 3 children live with you?
No, my older 2 live with my parents. Elizabeth lives with me.
How old are your older 2 children?
8 and 6.
Parents have custody of them?
Yes.
Was there a trial with regard to that issue?
Yes, there was.
How old is Elizabeth?
She's 2.
Parents didn't seek custody of Elizabeth?
No, they did not.
Okay. This is your complaint. Generally speaking, Mr. Langlands, I'm going to let you explain it to me more fully. You claim Ms. Doyle owes you some money. And you claim she owes you some money because you sent her a substantial amount of money when you moved to California from Colorado?
Yes, ma'am.
She stayed in Colorado for whatever reason. But according to you, it was your intention, and you believed it was her intention, to relocate with the children, all 3 of them, to California.
Yes, ma'am.
And she didn't.
No.
So you want the money back that you sent her. Some of it back, because some of it is for your daughter Elizabeth. But you sent her what you perceived to be more money than you should have sent and was your obligation because you really thought that you had a future together.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what this case is about?
Yes.
So I'm going to let you tell me in your own words, in a very short period of time, why you believe legally Miss Doyle owes you money.
In Colorado, I was living there and I was working there, and her parents, were constantly harassing me. So I left to come to California because, I just couldn't take it anymore.
Is that where your family is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you had a discussion with Miss Doyle that she was going to join you?
Melissa couldn't leave Colorado because she had been arrested on 2 counts of felony kidnapping.
Who did she kidnap?
The 2 older children.
From whom?
She took them out of state.
Well, who had custody of them?
Miss Doyle did.
Did somebody have visitation with the children?
No, it was ordered in the court. My belief is that she wasn't allowed to take the children out of state without the other party's consent.
Which other party?
Her ex-husband.
Okay, so she had 2 counts pending of felony kidnapping against her. She couldn't leave Colorado. When was this, sir?
May 31st, she was arrested.
Of 2004?
No, 2003.
Okay. When did you relocate to California?
It was the middle of July, around July.
Of 2003?
Yes.
Okay. And how much money did you send to her in total?
It came close to $5,000, just in Western Union transfers.
Over what period of time?
4 months.
Did she ask you for the money?
Well, she had moved out of her parents' home because her parents had filed paperwork to intervene and get parental custody of the 2 older children. And she moved out of the house and moved into a motel, quit her job, and she had Elizabeth, the 2 other kids, so I felt I needed to be sending money.
Okay, so you did. So she didn't ask you for the money, but you just knew she needed it.
Right.
Okay. So at that time you sent her, over those months, about $5,000.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm listening.
This was with the intent, and, this custody case and the criminal case was going to be over, and she was going to come to California. We were going to get married, and I tried to be everything that Melissa wanted me to be and everything that she wanted, and it just wasn't good enough. She had received money in January of 2004, which was a $3,000 tax return. She never told me about this. The only reason I found out is because one of the kids got on the telephone and told me that she had bought a vacuum, and I'm the only person that's sending money. She's not working. I told her, how did she come about this? And she says, well, I got a $3,000 tax return. Well, why didn't you tell me? And this was in February. She told me that she wanted to come out to California for Valentine's Day to surprise me. That's why she never told me.
Oh, okay.
And rather than pay some bills.
Fine. When did she finally tell you she wasn't coming out to California?
We had an argument in February, and, you know, we never talked for a couple of weeks. She called me, it was late one night, it was like 11 o'clock one night, and she had told me she had been sleeping with a gentleman whose name I don't know. But
okay.
It's my belief that she withdrew her motion to relocate to California on November 19th here in her custody case.
Mr. Langland.
Leading me to believe.
Mr. Langland, while I'm sympathetic with you, in order to recoup money, there has to be a loan or some promise to repay. And that clearly wasn't the case in this case. There was no loan, there was no loan agreement, there was no promise to repay you. So my sense is that your lawsuit is grounded somewhere in fraud, that she fraudulently
Yes, ma'am.
accepted money from you because it was your intention and you believed it was her intention to come to California.
Yes, ma'am.
Two things. First of all, you can't quantify how much money that you should be sending her for the support of your child. Maybe it's $5,000, maybe it's $10,000, maybe it's $15,000, maybe it's $50. Can't quantify that. So I don't know if you sent her $5,000 over the course of several months because she was living. How much is that for your daughter? How much is that for her? How much is that for the 3 kids? You cannot quantify that. Second, you can't creep into her head. I mean, there may have been in some period of time when she accepted this money that she said, you know, there's a chance that I'm going to go out to California with, what's your first name?
Richard.
Richard. So, truth of the matter is you really don't have a lawsuit against her for this money. But I have a more important question to ask you. Several important questions to ask you. Have you ever been legally declared Elizabeth's father?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that after or before a blood test?
There was never any blood test done.
Why not?
Because I mean, we were together, and you know, she's my daughter.
Okay. Just asking you, sir. Did you live together?
Yes, for a short period of time.
How long?
6 months, 8 months maybe.
And when did she tell you she was pregnant?
3 months after we were together.
And how much later was Elizabeth born?
9 months later. Well, 7 months later. 6 months later, sorry.
Did you suggest to him that he have a paternity test?
I did, Your Honor.
Step up. And what did he say to you?
He believed the child was his.
I have a picture of her.
I'm not interested in a picture. I'm not interested in a picture. I'm interested in him being smart. His mother's smart. You're not too smart.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
There isn't a court in the land that is able to take children away from a biological parent and give those children to a grandparent merely because their mother wants to move to another state.
It happened in Colorado.
That is impossible.
And later today,
Why would they pay anything towards your moving in to a new residence with yourself, a very tall, able-bodied boyfriend who wears a lot of gold jewelry, and your 13-year-old son?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Richard Langland says ex-girlfriend Melissa Doyle defrauded him out of money. Richard claims she led him to believe she wanted a relationship.
Now, if you believe that this child is yours, and I assume you're paying child support, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you visit with her?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
Because I live in California, and Melissa makes it very difficult to even have any kind of phone contact with my daughter, contrary to
different babysitters, different locations, picks her up at 3 o'clock in the morning, leaves her with different babysitters.
Let me suggest this to you. You have a situation where Miss Doyle has 3 children.
To 3 different men.
I know you're dying to talk. She has 3 children. Her parents believed, clearly, that she was such an inadequate caretaker that they had a trial to take the children from her and have custody of the children.
They tried to take custody because I wanted to move to California with him. They didn't file for custody.
Miss Doyle.
Until I moved to
Miss
California
Doyle,
with
my
him.
dear, listen to me very carefully.
I'm not an inadequate mother in any way, shape, or form.
There isn't a court in the land that is able to take children away from a biological parent and give those children to a grandparent merely because their mother wants to move to another state.
It happened in Colorado.
That is impossible. That would not happen. So what I'm saying to you, sir, if you are convinced that this child is yours, and you know it has been determined that she is an inadequate parent for her older two children, I would think long and hard about allowing my daughter to stay with her. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I am seeking custody.
With that in mind, I'm dismissing your case for money because you have no case. There's a bigger picture here. I suggest that you deal with that. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
That's all, Steph.
Thank you.
Parties are excused and they step up.
It's really not about the money. I just want people to know what's going on in Colorado as far as my daughter's concerned.
We were engaged, so I just assumed that that's why he was sending me money.
How vindictive, malicious, and callous Melissa actually is.
If anybody's vindictive, he is. He's the one suing the mother of his child.
I hope to get custody of my daughter and make sure she's safe.
I think a little girl needs her father, but as far as we are, you know, I don't see anything.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Farrell versus Monaco. Step forward, please.
Retired engineer Tom Farrell is suing his daughter's former guardian, property manager Victoria Monaco, for the return of money given towards child care expenses. Victoria is countersuing for unpaid rent and additional expenses.
Mr. and Mrs. Farrell, I assume this is your daughter. Tell me your first name.
Marcy.
Marcy. Stand up next to your folks. Marcy, I have a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
How old are you?
15.
Well, Marcy was going through a difficult teenage period. And according to your complaint, after several failed attempts at other arrangements, you found the defendant who indicated she was prepared to let Marcy live with her. The arrangement was that she would be paid $50 a week. You advanced her $1,000. Marcy stayed how many weeks?
I stayed about 2 weeks before I went to a residence.
To a residence?
Residential. It's a part of my program.
Stayed 2 weeks, and you want the rest of your money back. That's what the case is about.
Yeah.
Ms. Monaco says that, yes, you advanced her the $1,000, but during the time that your daughter was with her for that 2-week period, she spent a heck of a lot more than $1,000, and she's counterclaiming for $1,600 for a variety of things. How did you find Miss Monaco?
We met about 4 years ago. We lived in the same area. Our children went to school together.
This is her son?
Yes.
So the kids were friendly?
Correct.
Okay.
So when the time came, Marcy, I think, initially spoke with the defendant about staying with her. They'd always gotten along well together. We'd always gotten along well together. I met with Vicki. We talked about it. We agreed on $50 a week for housing and food. She indicated that was more than enough. My wife and I would pay for all other expenses, schooling, education, transportation, medical, whatever else needed. That was only for food and housing. After the 2-week period, things weren't working out. Marcy had to go to residence, which is part of the EDIP program that she's in through the juvenile justice system. So when it was time to come back, the defendant was in the arrangements of moving her household, looking for a new place to live. She said at the time that the reason for that was she had an abusive relationship with her boyfriend, trying to get away from him, needed some front money to get on with her life. So we were willing to advance her the $1,000 so that she could get a head start, get out of there and all that. The 2 weeks that Marcy was there, we'd already paid her that $100 for. We were even at that point in time.
So you'd already given her the $100 for the 2 weeks, and
That
this was
is correct.
$1,000, an advance of
Was an
$1,000.
advance for, after she got moved into the new home, everything was settled there. She was going to let us know when that was. We were going to get Marcy moved back over there and start life as we hoped would be a good situation. And then we never heard from her.
Now, they paid you the $100 pursuant to agreement, $50 a week for the time that Marcy was with you, and they advanced you $1,000. Why shouldn't they get it back?
Your Honor, they did not give me $100. And the $1,000 that he did give me that I received was for first, last, and security to move into a home. So Tom and Barbara have not given me anything towards taking care of Marcy.
Just 1 second. How many people moved into your new home?
Well, there was myself, my son Marco, and my boyfriend. He would come and go.
Well, then why in the world would they, you have 2 adults and your child, why in the world are they responsible for your first, last, and security?
They're not responsible for all of it.
So why don't you give them their $1,000 back?
Your Honor, they were going to pay for half of it.
What?
It cost $2,700 to move in.
Shh, listen to me. Why would they pay anything towards your moving in to a new residence with yourself, a very tall, able-bodied boyfriend who wears a lot of gold jewelry, and your 13-year-old son? Miss Monaco, you explain that to me.
Marcy was with me in the home.
So what?
Well, he agreed to pay and help me in a better home, which he states right in here.
Well, you show me where he agreed to pay for
well, I can show you where...
last, and security.
No, it's not stated like that. It's stated for a better home.
Let me see it. This says, after a week of negotiating, we met at Wachovia Bank on 5504 and signed a contract for a prepayment of child care for our daughter so the defendant could move into a better home. So what he's saying here is he agreed to give you a $1,000 advance because you needed cash to move into this new home, and that money would be offset for the $50 a week that he had agreed to give you for the support of his daughter. You get it? That's what this says, if that's what you're showing me. Don't go like this. That's what it says. Now, you have a contract?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see it, please?
We also have a copy of $100 check.
No,
Oh, we didn't have that. Oh.
Okay.
You need to get that out of stuff, too.
This says, Vicky's previous boyfriend, that's him, Ramon, shall be excluded from contact with Vicky or her family by means of a restraining order while Marcy is in her custody. That's what you signed. If Marcy is away from Vicky's custody or residence for any reason for periods of a week or more, the balance of the child care prepayment must be returned to the Farrells at the rate of $50 a week. Don't you read?
Yes, I do.
Well, explain that to me.
I'm trying to explain to you, Your Honor, that $1,000 was for a better home.
Listen to me.
Okay.
That's not what this says. It's signed, it's notarized by a notary public. That's not what your contract says.
Isn't my housing part of child care? Wouldn't my housing be part of child care?
Just a minute. Doesn't she understand the rules? The rules are I ask the questions, you answer the questions.
Okay.
Madam, you signed it. So you must know more about Ramon than I do.
At that time, I was under a lot of pressure, and I knew that I wasn't going to put a restraining order. I don't believe it was so mandatory that that be done at that time because Marcy was in the home with Ramon 3 weeks prior to Tom and I even sitting down and discussing this.
Why did you sign this agreement? So, you have to give them back their $1,000. And in addition, you have a counterclaim for a whole bunch of nonsense, that she did damage to your stove. You want moving costs because you moved with the lovely Ramon into a house and that they should pay for it. You want a whole bunch of things. Let me suggest this to you. Get a job. And so should Ramon. Pay your own bills, pay your own expenses, take care of your own selves, take care of your own children. Your counterclaim is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. Goodbye and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Step out.
28-year-old DJ Patrick Patterson and his wife, 24-year-old market manager Selena Patterson, for unpaid rent and for extensive damage to her home.
Yeah, that's case number 207 on the calendar in the matter of Grogan versus Patterson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Mrs. Grogan, this is your son and this is his wife.
Yes, ma'am.
Who is this gentleman?
This is my husband.
Are you afraid to stand up?
No, ma'am.
Good. Stand up next to your wife. Are you his father?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so this is your second stepfather. How long have the two of you been married?
2 years.
2 years?
Rough. Yes, ma'am.
It's good that you remember.
Yes, ma'am. It's usually the other way.
Yes.
Okay. And there was some sort of a problem that occurred between you and your son?
Yes, ma'am.
And you evicted them?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you went back into the house, you saw some extensive damage. So
Yes,
you
ma'am.
want him to be responsible for the rent that he owes you, as well as for the damage that he did to the house.
Yes, ma'am.
And your son says that there was never an agreement to pay rent. that there was an agreement that he pay your insurance, some sort of insurance, that he paid that faithfully, and he's going to prove to me that he paid that faithfully, and that was the only agreement that you had with regard to finances, and that you are, according to him, a meddling lady who wants to control his life, and when you had a fight with him, you hit him over the head with a soda bottle, and he and his wife and children moved out of the house, and he caused absolutely no damage.
Correct.
Do you work, Mr. Patterson?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a DJ.
Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
Who do you work for?
I'm an assistant market manager.
Okay. So you have two incomes. What are you doing living in your mother's house?
She told me that it was my house for years. Her and my father bought the house when I was younger, and I've always lived there. So she bought her another home and moved it in behind us, and she told us that we could live there. She said, as long as you help me out with my insurance, there's no rent or anything.
Okay. Tell me what the insurance was every month.
$278.
$278.
That's what we pay a month.
What other expenses did you pay on the house, Mr. Patterson?
I replaced some doors.
No, expenses, regular expenses.
As in?
Heating, utilities?
Yeah, we
paid the utility bill and the phone bill, but they were also in her name.
I don't care whose name they were in. You were living there.
Yes, ma'am. I paid them.
Okay.
Until she come down and cut them off in 100-degree heat with my kids in the house.
Okay, well, you had a fight with them. You had a fight with your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you have a fight with your mother?
I don't recall the exact date.
Give me the month.
May.
May.
And how long had you been living in the house up until that point?
I've been there 7 years.
But she left for a period of
2 years.
2 years and come
and
back.
I come back September 2001.
When she was pregnant again.
Ah. So you've been living there on and off for the last 5 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're telling me, Miss Grogan, that your son and his wife never paid rent?
They paid rent one time.
One time?
One time.
When?
I don't even remember it.
It was so long ago.
It was so long ago, I don't remember.
Oh, okay. And you filed eviction proceedings against them after this May argument?
Yes, ma'am.
So why don't you tell me, Mr. Patterson, about the argument?
She asked me for part of the cool ceiling, the trailer.
Part of the what?
Cool ceiling of the mobile home.
I don't understand what that...
It's a seal that goes on top. It's supposed to make the house cooler, and it seals it up from any leaks or anything occurring.
Okay, so she asked you for that?
She asked me for half, yes, ma'am, and I told her that I'm hard-headed, so she told me that I was going to pay it.
Just a second. So she said, she asked if you would pay it, and then you probably said no.
I said, if I have it, I will, and she said, well, you're going to pay it.
Okay, so you said, if I had it, I would pay it.
If I have it at the time. She wanted it later on in the week, and I said, if I have it at that time, I will give it to you. But she said, well, you're going to pay it, and I come back honest from her. If you're going to pay it. And at that point, when she told me I was going to pay it, I would have died before I would have paid it then, to be honest with you.
So what did you say to your mother, who's allowed you to live rent-free in the house with your wife and 2 children for 7 years?
After she got on the porch, she made some more threats.
What did you say to her? I don't care what she said to you. She can wipe. She brought you into this world. She can take you out. What did you say to her?
You can't say it in a courtroom, really.
Oh, you can say anything here, sir. We have the ability to go bleep, bleep.
I told her, you.
Nice.
So
Let me see what I got here. I got a mother. How many children do you have, Miss Grogan?
We have none.
One.
You have one.
Just one.
Him. See what happens when you put all your eggs in one basket?
But if I could
Just a second. Let's see what we got here, Mr. Patterson. We have a mother who allows you and your wife to live rent-free in her home. And she comes down and she says to you, listen, you don't pay any rent in the house. The house needs some repairs on the outside. I want you to pay, not the whole thing. I want you to pay half. And you say to her, I had it. And she says to you, oh, you're going to have it. And then you curse at her.
That was only after a few more arguments. I mean, we went on arguing. This happened when we got outside, and then she turned and threw a bottle at me and hit me in the head with a bottle.
Sure did.
And she denies that. My little girl.
You are lying. You were in the house.
No,
My
it
little girl
wasn't.
asked me
Miss
every
Grogan,
day
Miss
of
Grogan.
my life why her Grammy hit her daddy in the head, and why every time they go over
Because
there,
he had a big fresh mouth.
she has no reason.
Listen to me. Because he had a big fresh mouth.
Well, and so does she.
Beverly Grogan says her son Patrick Patterson and his wife Selena Patterson owe for unpaid rent and for damage to her home. Beverly says Patrick and his wife burned down the bathroom.
I want you to face left.
I'm sorry.
Your other left.
Okay.
You see this woman?
Yes, ma'am.
20 years from now, you won't remember what she looks like. Now I want you to turn around and face right.
What do you think?
That's your mother. 20 years from now, she's still going to be your mother. Look at me. You know how I know that? Because I'm smart. And because statistically, there is more than a 50% probability in this country that you won't remember what she looks like unless you see her occasionally at your children's weddings. So that this lady is somebody that you don't tell to go bleep yourself. And I don't care what kind of trouble Missy Moo Moo over here tries to make. Your mother helped you for 7 years. Now, I'm going to tell you, sir, that I believe you only about one thing. I believe you that there was never an agreement with your mother to pay rent. See that? I'm a reasonable gal. I know what's right and I know what's true. She's angry and she's hurt because probably at this point she has you. You're her only son. You have 2 children. She hasn't seen her grandchildren. That's a very painful thing for her. So, listen, Missy Moo Moo over here is shaking her head yes. I'm talking to you, not her.
Wow.
The one that you're not going to remember 20 years from now?
I don't remember.
Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about your mother who's taken care of you, changed your pants, took care of you when you were sick, took care of you when you had a fever, brought you up, fed you, clothed you, educated you, took care of you for a very long time. This isn't somebody you cut off from her grandchildren. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Just remember what I said when I told you to look left. Now, did you or your wife cause any damage to this house when you left?
One thing.
What?
I was gone to move a bed, and when I come back, we seen smoke coming out of the bathroom window, so I went down there. Maybe she left a... They never determined what it was. I think maybe a candle, maybe it's...
You mean your wife?
Yes, ma'am. And the wind blew the curtain, and the curtain caught on fire, and I put it out. I feel like it could have been fixed with some paint.
Okay. So you would agree, Mr. Patterson, would you not, that this accident that you say was caused by your wife negligently leaving a candle burning in the bathroom is your responsibility to fix?
Yes, ma'am. But I don't...
There you go.
I don't think it was as bad as it was said.
All I'm going to do is look at her bills to fix it. That's all.
The bills were fixed by an ex-husband.
I don't care who they were fixed by. I don't care if they were fixed by Howdy Doody. I want to see a paid bill to have it fixed, because that is minimally your responsibility. You would agree with that?
Yeah, but not as bad as it says. They say it is.
Can I please see the bill to fix the bathroom that was damaged as a result of his wife leaving a candle burning and a wind blowing through the window and catching on fire the curtains, which caused damage that might have been fixed by just some paint?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today...
So in the 6 months that you lived there, you vacuumed your carpet twice?
Maybe 3 times, yeah.
How many times a day do you shower?
Once.
Laundry?
Every month, maybe.
Yeah, do you turn your underwear?
Sometimes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Beverly Grogan says her son Patrick Patterson and his wife Selena Patterson owe for unpaid rent and for damage to her home. Beverly says Patrick and his wife burned down the bathroom.
Where are you living now?
In a mobile home.
Who rented it to you?
I bought it.
How much money did you put down on it?
$500.
How much do you make in mortgage payments?
$500 a month.
Let us assume that for the past 5 years, not 7, 5, because that's how many years you lived in your mother's house with Missy over here, that you paid your mother what you're paying on a mortgage. That's $500 a month. $500 a month times 12 times 5 years is $30,000. That's how much you saved by living in your mother's house. $30,000. Now, if you didn't put that away, that's your problem. But you don't move out of a house and leave it like a pigsty, which is what you did.
We couldn't clean it up. Every time we went over, we get cussed out.
It shouldn't have gotten to that point. These photographs that I'm seeing didn't happen in one day. They happened over a very long period of time.
She always told me that that was my place. I even told the preacher that that was my place. It belonged to me.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,580. Just remember what I said to you, sir. Look over there. You won't remember that face unless one of your kids looks like her in 20 years. Do you understand? This is always going to be your mother. You're making a big mistake, and you're being very unfair to your children. You're being very unfair to your children if you don't allow your children to have a relationship with your mother when she's had a relationship with them over the last...
I have no problem with her having a relationship with me.
Great.
He has refused. I have called him and called him and called him and asked him to bring the children over.
So he says he has no problem. So you're going to bring your children over on Sunday morning?
Yes, ma'am.
What time do you want him to bring the children over?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock for a visit?
Yes, ma'am.
For an hour. Great.
Yes,
Every Sunday?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that reasonable?
Yes, ma'am.
That's fine.
Done. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
When he put his hands on me and he threw me down to the ground, I knew then that, you know, we need at some point it had to stop.
What can you say? I mean, you know, you have to go by what she says, but don't agree with everything.
I was hoping he would learn from it. I love him, and I love Selena.
He's not there anymore. He's making a family with me and his 2 kids. That's a problem with her, which is fine. We'll see where he is in 20 years.
And the control problem is not with me. It's with his wife.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hart versus Armstrong. Step forward, please.
24-year-old receptionist Valeska Hart is suing her former neighbor, 24-year-old production assistant Brian Armstrong, for the cost to repair her vacuum cleaner. Brian says he borrowed the vacuum to clean his apartment after it was egged.
Is that the offending vacuum cleaner?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Mr. Armstrong, you are Miss Harp's neighbor, or were Miss Harp's neighbor. And according to what I read, somebody or some group of people decided, I haven't said anything yet. Why do you have this silly look on your face?
Just listening.
Good. Listen intently.
I am.
Somebody egged your apartment.
Yeah.
You made a big mess all over the place, and you went next door and asked Miss Harp if you could borrow her vacuum cleaner. Miss Harp says that when you returned the vacuum cleaner to her after having tried to vacuum up all this wet slop that was all over your carpet, that the vacuum cleaner didn't work anymore and it was ruined. And Mr. Armstrong, you say that it seemed to work just fine when you brought it home.
Yeah.
Does it work anymore?
Now it does because I had it fixed.
Do you have a bill?
Yes, I do.
When was your apartment egged, Mr. Armstrong?
About last weekend in April.
By whom?
I have no idea.
Did you make a police report?
No, it was reported to the management downstairs, but I don't think any police.
Not them, you. Why didn't you report it to the police?
That somebody egged my house?
That someone vandalized your home.
It was all cleaned up by the apartment building. It wasn't a big deal.
They cleaned up your apartment?
Yeah. They repainted the whole out front. Outside, they cleaned it.
Who cleaned the inside of your apartment?
That was me.
Why did you use that vacuum cleaner to clean up all the wet stuff in your apartment?
I didn't clean up any wet stuff. What happened was my sliding door was open, so some of the eggs, 2 or 3, had gotten inside. And a couple days later, when I was cleaning it up, there was like dry yolk and stuff on the carpet. I resolved it out, scrubbed it out, and then there were still some eggshells on the ground, stuff like that. But it wasn't sloppy wet like you were describing.
I didn't describe it. She described it in her complaint.
Okay.
Tell me what happened when he returned the vacuum cleaner.
When the vacuum was returned to me, the outside bag, not the inside bag that you changed, but the outside bag was completely soaking wet. You could have wrung it, and you lifted it up, and there was gooey stuff coming out of it. On the metal parts, there was eggshells.
When he returned it to you, did you say anything to him about the condition?
Yes, I did.
What did you say to him?
I said, this is leaking, because he put it back into the closet where it was, and it wasn't a carpeted area, and I was cleaning up the area, and I said, I'm going to have to take this in to get it fixed and to get it cleaned, and you're going to have to pay for it.
And he said?
How much do you think that will cost? And I said, I'm not sure. And
it's impossible for her to say that there was leaking stuff coming out of the bottom, because I didn't vacuum up any,
Did you use the words to her, Mr. Armstrong, how much do you think that will cost? Is not an answer.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why don't you have a vacuum of your own?
I don't know.
You have an apartment that has carpeting?
I do.
So how do you clean the carpeting? With the tweezers?
Sometimes.
I don't find you adorable. How do you clean your carpeting?
I don't.
How long have you lived there?
Maybe 6 months now.
And you don't clean the carpeting?
I did when she lived there.
When who lived there?
Val lived across the way.
So you borrowed her vacuum cleaner frequently?
Maybe once previous to the incident.
So in the 6 months that you lived there, you vacuumed your carpet twice? Is that right?
Maybe 3 times, yeah.
Whose vacuum did you borrow the third time? You're making it up as you're going along, sir.
I mean, I don't know how many times I vacuumed my carpet, to be honest with you.
How many times had he borrowed your vacuum?
I don't have
once prior to the incident.
How many times a day do you shower?
Once.
Laundry?
Every month, maybe.
Yeah, do you turn your underwear?
Sometimes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $200.29. Thank you.
Vice President Mandy Hoganase for vet bills, lost wages, and attorney fees. Stephen claims Mandy's son, 7-year-old Joshua Shatlane, falsely accused his German Shepherd of biting him.
Yeah, this is case number 270 on the calendar, the matter of Wilfong versus Haganase. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Wolfgang, you own a dog.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of a dog do you have?
It's a German Shepherd.
Do you have a picture?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see it?
You're certain.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Rather unique.
He is indeed.
You are suing the defendant because you claim that her son, I assume this little boy, falsely accused your dog of biting him.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
As a result of that, your dog was quarantined.
For 10 days.
You have some vet bills for the quarantine, and you had some attorney's fees.
That's correct.
And you want his mother to compensate you for
Yes,
that. Now, I gather on the day of this incident, you were not at home.
No, ma'am, was not.
On what day was this incident?
It was in April. I don't know the exact date.
Do you?
The 15th.
And do you live alone, sir?
No, ma'am.
Who do you live with?
My wife.
Does she work?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were both gone during the day?
My wife was out of town. She wasn't even in the state of Georgia.
Okay. And what's this dog's name?
Rocket.
Where is Rocket?
We have a big 2-car garage. He has a big, large kennel, constant feeder, and one of those constant water 5-gallon jugs, and he's got life pretty good in there.
So when you leave in the morning, you put him out into the garage so that he can't get into
Take him out, and then leave him in the garage.
And when you get home from work, does he come into the house? Is he a house dog?
Yes, ma'am.
But you don't leave him in the house. Why?
Why?
Yeah.
We're afraid of what might happen. I mean, he's a 110-pound full-grown German Shepherd. I wouldn't want him to have full run of the house while nobody's at home.
How old is he?
He is 5 years old.
You don't live close by to the plaintiff. You were visiting someone?
Yes, my boyfriend.
And how far away does your boyfriend live from Mr. Wolfgang?
It's around the block. He lives in like a cul-de-sac, and then Joey lives in another cul-de-sac, and it's around the block.
And your son was out playing?
Yes.
Was he out playing alone?
He went to a friend's house to see if she could come out and play, and that is Mr. Wilfong's neighbor. And
so you spend time there?
Yes.
In this neighborhood?
Yes, ma'am.
What's your name?
Joshua.
Joshua, you want to come up here and talk to me for a minute?
Okay.
Right up here.
There you go.
How old are you, Joshua?
7.
You go to school?
Yes.
What grade are you in?
First.
Did you go to kindergarten last year?
Yeah.
Can you read?
A little bit.
Okay, well, that's very good as a starting first grader. Now, Joshua, do you remember last April when something happened with a dog?
Yes.
Tell me where you were.
I was going to my friend's house.
Did you walk there by yourself?
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
When I went to the house and she couldn't play, I went back out and the dog was out of the garage and I was going to take a shortcut and the dog...
How are you going to take a shortcut?
Through the yard.
Through the yard where the dog lived?
Yes.
That's not the way you got there.
No.
Had you ever taken that shortcut before?
Yes.
And everything was okay when you went through the yard?
Mm-hmm.
Dog didn't bother you?
No.
Had you ever seen the dog before?
Yes.
Is this a picture of the dog?
Yes.
Now, you said the dog was out of the garage. How did you know the dog had been in the garage?
Because the garage was closed and I heard it banging on the door and barking.
And is that when you were knocking at Sammy's door?
Yes.
Now, when you decided to take the shortcut, you say you saw the dog. Where was the dog?
It was near the garage, in the grass right here, close to Sammy's house.
So you were going to go into the yard even though you saw this dog there?
Yes.
You weren't afraid of the dog?
A little bit.
What happened with the dog?
He ran over and bit me.
Where did he bite you?
On my leg.
Did he bite you or just jump on you?
He jumped on the grass and then bit me.
Did he cut your skin?
A little bit.
Was it bleeding?
Not that much.
Or was it bleeding at all? Or were you just frightened?
Kind of both.
Kind of both. Okay, Joshua, go and sit down. When your son found you that day, was his leg bleeding?
A little bit, yes.
Was it from a scratch or a bite? Because if a dog like this bites him, you're not talking about a little dog. You're talking about a dog that if he bit him,
right,
it could have caused some serious damage.
Right.
So was it a scratch?
He had like maybe 3 or 4 scratches and then kind of a puncture on the leg, and his pants were torn. He had come into the house and was crying, and I looked down and he had wet his pants, and I was like, what's wrong, you know? And of course I'm freaking out because I have no idea what's wrong. And he's like, the big white dog got a hold of me. He said that he just got him on the leg, and I guess it went through his pants and kind of drug him a little bit. And he said someone had come and cracked the door open and called the dog's name, and when the dog looked up, that was Joshua's opportunity to run away, and that's what he told me.
You have any reason to doubt that story today?
No.
So?
There was nobody there that could have possibly have let the dog out in the first place, much less called him in. Have an incident report from Gwinnett County Animal Control.
Can I see it, please?
Sure. And he states exactly that there was nobody there when he got there.
That doesn't mean there was nobody there. That means there was nobody there when he got there. How do you think that happened to his leg?
I have no idea.
According to this report, there were several children in the neighborhood, sir, who said that your garage door was open and that somebody from inside the garage called your dog after the child was bitten.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what it says.
I know that's what it says, but there was nobody there.
Well, that's what you say. I don't know that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today...
When I told her, Evelyn, I want the truck back, you don't have the money to pay for it, she goes, well, you're not taking this truck. I'll shatter every single window in that truck. And she ran outside and shattered the back window.
Can't do that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephen Wilfong says his dog was wrongly quarantined due to a false report by Mandy Hoganase. Mandy says Stephen's German Shepherd bit her 7-year-old son in the leg.
Now, I can't make a determination, sir, that nobody was home.
I have records showing that my wife was out of state.
Sir, I don't care whether your wife was out of state.
Okay.
Somebody, sir, let the dog out. Maybe it was a neighbor's child. Your garage door is unlocked, so somebody could go and open the garage door from outside.
I know nobody was in my house.
Well, I don't know that,
And
sir.
I
This
know
is a
that
court.
dog
I'm not
didn't get out.
clairvoyant. I'm telling you what the evidence is. The evidence is as follows. I have testimony from this little boy supported by physical evidence, by his mother, and animal control, that he was, in fact, bitten by a dog. Not viciously bitten, not seriously bitten, but bitten by a dog. I have this little boy telling me that it was a large white dog from your house who bit him. I have neighboring children who tell animal control and evidence that you gave me, not she gave me, that it was your dog and someone opened the garage door and brought the dog back inside after the child was attacked. And you expect me to say, well, okay, you say nobody was at home. You weren't home.
Nope.
That's the evidence. I have to make a judgment. I have to make a judgment by a preponderance of the evidence whether or not you can sustain your case. And you cannot, because you have no evidence other than the fact that you were at work and your wife wasn't home.
My wife was out of town.
And that's what you tell me.
That's right.
I believe him. And I believe this. So your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Nobody wants to see a small child get bit.
I don't think it was a severe bite.
I felt bad for him, but I seen the little boy that night.
I think he was just really scared.
I don't think it was by my dog.
I mean, it's a big dog. It's very scary.
It didn't look like a dog bite
I just don't want it to happen again.
from no 110-pound dog to me.
I'm glad everything's okay.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Woodall versus Cruz. Step forward, please.
Truck driver Evelyn Woodall is suing her son, Arnold Cruz, and his wife, Annie Cruz, for the return of money she paid for a truck. The couple is countersuing for vandalism to the truck in question.
Miss Woodall, is this your son?
Yes.
And his wife?
Yes.
According to your complaint, there came a time when you were living with them.
Yes.
And you needed a new vehicle.
Yes.
And you agreed to purchase a truck of theirs. And the agreement was that you would make $400 a month payments, maintain the insurance until the truck was paid off.
Correct.
You made payments, according to you, faithfully, with the exception of the last one that was some sort of a problem. And your daughter-in-law and son repossessed the truck.
Correct.
You want all the money that you put into it.
Correct.
And your son and daughter-in-law say that you missed a payment, that you did not maintain the insurance as you should have, and that you did not keep the truck in good repair, as a result of which they have to have it repainted and refixed, whatever, and they are counterclaiming for that amount. When did you purchase the truck?
February of the 15th of 2004.
And what was the purchase price of the truck?
They sold it to me for $6,500.
What year truck was it?
A 96.
What was the Blue Book value of the truck?
I think it was $3,500 or $4,000.
So why did you agree to pay him $6,500?
Because I didn't have good enough credit to go out and buy my own.
Was the Blue Book value of this truck $3,500?
No, it was not.
What was it?
It was 72 when we pulled it up. 7,200.
Was that in excellent condition?
Excellent condition.
Was the truck in excellent condition?
Yes.
When you say that, you're looking up at the sky when you say yes.
Well, because there was a debt that her son had put into the truck.
So it wasn't in excellent condition?
No.
Well, what was the value of it if it wasn't in excellent condition?
The last time I looked, it was in fair condition.
Well, maybe we can find out. Bird, do you want to see if you can get me a Kelly Blue Book on this truck? Sure. A 1996 what?
Chevy S10.
Be right back.
Thank you. Okay. While Bert is doing that, you agreed to pay them $6,500, and how much did you make in payments altogether?
$3,900 with a balance of $2,600.
Okay, $3,900.
Correct.
Is that correct?
$3,100.
You have receipts for $3,900?
It could be.
$3,100?
Yes.
Okay. Your daughter-in-law seems quite sure of herself when she says $3,100.
Yes.
Leaving a balance of $3,400.
That's right.
What do we got? Chevy S10, 1996.
Fair condition.
Mm-hmm.
$900.
$900?
That's what it says.
How about in medium condition?
Good condition is $1,300. Private. You want private party?
Yeah.
Okay. $2,300.
Would you show them, Bert, so that they don't think that you're fooling them?
So no one picking four-cylinder?
Yeah, but extended cab's down here. It has to be extended cab.
You didn't tell me it had an extended cab.
It's
Come
an
on, work with
extended
me
cab.
here. All right. Okay, so here's the extended cab down here.
Okay.
All right. 3250. Go. $3,250, Judge.
$3,250. So that's the best case scenario for the defendants is $3,250 should have been the sale price.
$3,250.
So they doubled that and sold it to the mother for $6,500.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Evelyn Woodall says her daughter-in-law, Annie Cruz, illegally repossessed her truck. Evelyn says the incident is tearing apart their family.
$3,250 is what the car is worth.
Okay.
If you sold it to your mother-in-law for $6,500, you took her for a ride, and she paid $3,100, which would have been almost the maximum that you could have gotten the car if you sold it to somebody else.
But nowadays, you can't get a car, used or not used, at Blue Book value. It's based on the conditions, just like an old car. You get an old car...
Sir, do you speak?
Yes, I do.
Shh! Do you speak?
Yes, I do.
Why did you repossess this car from your mother?
I didn't. My wife did.
Did you give her permission to do it?
It's not my truck.
Whose truck was it?
It's hers.
In whose name was it?
Hers.
Is that right? It was in your wife's name because she purchased it?
Yes.
Before you were married?
No. After we were married.
Then why is it her truck?
Because it was her cash. Her hard-worked money paid for that truck.
Didn't you have a discussion with your wife about going to your mother's and repossessing this truck?
First of all, I told her not to sell it to my mother. I didn't want, you know, how family things are.
Smart. Really smart. You're absolutely right. And she was absolutely wrong in selling the truck to your mother, given the fact that her husband said to her, please don't sell the truck to my mother. I don't want to sell a used car to family. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then, when she said, I'm going to take it back, and your mother had already paid you practically all that it was worth, what did you say to her?
I didn't say anything. I had nothing to say.
Oh, who are you?
I'm the other daughter-in-law. I'm married to the oldest son.
Are you a nicer daughter-in-law?
Yeah.
Your Honor?
What?
She wrote me a letter and sent me a check of $1,000. And my son had got into my mail and took my check as hostage so that I would take my mattress out of the back of the garage. I never got the letter. The police were called in.
I don't need to figure out that your son has a problem. He really should find his manhood. He'd be a lot better off. Where is the truck now?
In my garage.
You going to fix it up?
Yeah, but when I went to go pick up the truck, when I told her, Evelyn, I want the truck back, you don't have the money to pay for it, she goes, well, you're not taking this truck. I'll shatter every single window in that truck. And she ran outside with the horse hook and shattered the back window.
Can't do that.
No, what it was is she called me up and told me that she called the police and said that she reported the truck stolen.
No, I did not.
And
did you break the window?
Yes, I did.
All right, you can't do that.
To get my saddle and my equipment
You
out.
can't do that. How many months did you have this car before they took it back?
Well, he drove it from February to, I think it was May, when he got his Dodge Hemi.
Is that right?
You know what? I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? You mean you don't know whether you drove the truck from February, March, April, and May?
You did.
Yes.
You don't know whether you drove it?
I think I did. I don't know. I don't recall.
Did you take stupid pills today or what? We're not talking about 5 years ago, sir. We're talking about a few months ago. Did you drive the truck that your mother was paying for 3 months?
Yes.
That's an answer. They repossessed the car because you missed, according to you, one payment.
Yes. There's my receipt.
Right? You had no right to break the back window. How much did it cost to fix it?
$200.
Show me.
Sorry, Your Honor, it was $157.75.
$1,900 minus $157.
Your Honor, the actual paint job that she did to the truck was also in very poor condition.
I don't care.
I have pictures to show.
I don't care.
The damages that she did.
I don't care. As I said to you, you know, if I could say that you were guilty of overreaching and selling your mother-in-law a truck for twice as much as it's worth, I would find that. But she made the deal. She's a grown woman. She paid you $3,100 for the truck. I am attributing to her $200 a month for the 6 months that she actually had the truck, because that's what it would be even if you had a rental. which leaves $1,900. And from that, I'm deducting $157 because you can't go and break the car window just because you were in a snit. That leaves $1,743. That's what you're going to get.
Okay.
You get nothing.
Okay,
Goodbye.
All right, is our excuse. You may step out.
It was very heartbreaking that I had to take my son to court.
Being a son of her is suing her former tenants, college students Joel Huspadka, Ronald Heinlein II, Adam Hamilton, and J.J. Archewesky for damage to her rental property. Gail says the young men used her roof as a driving range.
Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 230 on the calendar. Bear with me. In the matter of Greco-Reese versus Huspadka.
Who's Huspadka?
Me.
Good, go.
Heinlein, Hamilton, and Archewesky. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
You see, when you're in charge, you could take certain license. So let me show you what I'm going to do. That's
Okay.
Mr. A, B, C, and D.
I wish I could have done that.
Where is your rental property?
I'm sorry, Omaha, Nebraska.
And you rent this house to college students.
Well, I just rent it. It just happens to be college students that always...
You've rented to college students
Well,
before,
yeah.
so you rent to college students.
Yeah.
You have any dislike for this property? You hate this property?
This is the first time I've ever had any trouble.
Did you always rent to girls in the past?
No.
You rented to boys?
Mm-hmm.
Never had any trouble?
No.
Miraculous. How big is this house that you rented, Mr. A?
It's a split entry, 4-bedroom. I don't know the square footage.
And what was the rent on the house?
I believe it was $950, split 4 ways.
And when did you start your lease?
August 1st, 2003.
Name of the university you attended?
University of Nebraska at Omaha.
What year are you in?
4th year, senior.
Senior as well. Senior.
Senior.
Raise your hand if you're a good golfer.
Is that anybody in here?
No, just you. All right, Miss Reese, this is the situation. According to your complaint, these 4 young slobs destroyed your house, and in addition to leaving the place a mess, they decided to play golf off the roof of your house at some point and cause substantial damage to your roof.
Yes, ma'am.
So you want them to pay for the repairs.
Yes.
The boys say they didn't have a chance to clean up because you changed the locks on the house, which must have been the month of July, right?
Correct.
End of July, yeah.
End of July.
End of mid-July, right?
Yeah.
Well, end of mid-July.
End to mid-July.
I don't remember the
sorry.
exact date. Sometime after the 20th of July.
So the end of July, she changed the locks.
Yes.
Why do you think she changed the locks, gentlemen?
I don't know. She claims that we abandoned the house, but we did not. We still had property in there.
Did you pay July's rent?
No.
Well, just a minute. Mr. D says yes. You say no. Mr. D, did you pay July's rent?
The security deposit, she took that as last month's rent, is what she told us. She said we didn't have to pay last month's rent. She would keep the security deposit.
Why would anybody in their right mind say that until they inspected the house?
Good question.
No,
Who
I
did
have
she
no
say
idea.
that to?
On the phone. On July 19th, the day rent was due.
July 19th. Then what did you say?
She called me. I was in bed. She woke me up, and she said she was talking about rent due today, and I said, yeah, I know. I'm going to bring it down later. And she said, but if you guys, don't pay it, I'll just keep the security deposit as last month's rent.
Is that what you told him?
No, ma'am. There was so much damage in the house that I could have used another 2 months' rent to fix what I fixed in that house.
Listen, Mr. A, maybe it's just that you were groggy.
No.
Because what you just told me was that you said to your landlord, I'm going to bring the rent down later on today, and she said, nah, forget it.
She didn't say, nah, forget it. But she left me with the understanding that
Oh, well, that's different.
If we did not
There's
pay
something-
last month's rent, I don't remember exact words, I'm sorry, this was a long time ago. I was under the understanding when I hung up the phone that if we decided that we didn't want to pay last month's rent, she would keep the security deposit.
Well, maybe you said to her, maybe, since you don't remember the exact words, and maybe the impression was left with you because you said to her, I'm not giving you the last month's rent, keep the security deposit. Because then, that was on the 19th, sir?
Yes.
When did she change the locks on the house?
Like I said, sometime after the 20th. It was
Well,
about,
that would have been,
about
listen to me,
Okay.
listen to me, that would have been the very next day. So that makes sense to me. What makes sense to me is she called you and said, where's the rent? And you said, you're not getting the rent. You keep the security deposit. And then she says, oh, yeah? I'm changing the locks on the house. That makes sense. Not, don't come down and pay me the rent. I'll keep the security deposit for the last month. And then she goes in and changes the locks. That doesn't make sense. Okay, now, what I would like to see from you is photographs of the house if you have it.
Yep, those here.
And after I look at the photographs of the house, I would like to hear from your witness, if any. I assume that this is your witness, who's going to tell me something about these golf balls being hit off the roof, which A, B, and C deny. And D. Forgot about you. Sorry. Well, something's going on up there. Do you have major hailstorms?
No.
Nebraska?
Not that year.
Yes,
Huh?
yes, we did.
Major hailstorms?
Not that time.
You gotta be kidding me.
It was probably the worst year for hail we've had in quite a while, actually.
Really? And you think that the hailstorms did this damage to the roof?
I don't know what the damage looks like, but
Well, I'm going to show it to you. You can bring this over and share it with A through D.
Pass them down, boys.
Your Honor.
I assume since you didn't see the damage and you don't know anything about the
I
damage.
do know one thing.
Yes.
I found out today that they had a fifth person living in my house because the man that came to help
Mr.
the last D,
Mr.
to
D.
help D
Perfect.
move out, was the one that told my new renters what they did, and they started at July 4th.
Just a second. You're the new renter?
That's correct.
Tell me your name.
Robert Schneider.
Mr. Schneider, when did you meet these gentlemen, if at all?
I believe it was either the 25th or shortly after the 25th of July.
And where did you meet them?
At the home.
What were they doing there?
They were removing their belongings.
Did you have a conversation with any of these gentlemen?
Yes, I had a conversation with a close friend of the defendant's. He said to me...
Just a second. What was his name?
You know, I don't recall at this time. I'm kind of flustered with names. I don't recall names very well. I'm more of a face person.
I can't take your testimony. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
This is a court. Court, we take evidence, Miss Reese. If this young man had had a conversation with one of these defendants, then certainly he could have testified if any of them made an admission to him. But you want me to take his testimony about somebody whose name he doesn't know, who's not present today, and that's hearsay, okay, to support your case. So I can't do that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I've had 5 children who all went to college and who all, at one time or another, lived in rental property. And I remember I used to check to see if my inoculations were in order before I went to visit them.
And later today,
He had become more and more erratic as we had progressed in our relationship, and we'd been in counseling, and he had been on some drugs to help him deal with it.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gail Greco-Rees says her former tenants, Joel Hospodka, Ronald Heinlein II, Adam Hamilton, and J.J. Archieweski for damage to a rental property. Gail says the house looked like it had never been cleaned.
Okay. Do you have any photographs of the interior of the house, Miss Reese?
Your Honor, I lost, well, I didn't lose them. My sister-in-law did, but I have the letter I sent them with all the things that were wrong with the house. It was the abandonment letter that my attorney told me to write to them.
Whose job was it to clean the bathroom?
Kind of a joint effort. Yeah.
Well, nobody, I
Four
see
roommates.
nobody raised their hand.
It was
Okay. Who cleaned the bathrooms?
usually probably me.
That would be... Because it says here, the bathrooms, and in big letters it says, the bathrooms were disgusting. It appears as if it has never been cleaned. Well, based upon the lack of showing of hands, I would say that that's probably true. It's too late. Too late. Holes in the walls in the master bedroom, broken window, broken door frame. Who had the dog? Raise your hand. Dog! Mr. D, Mr. A, what kind of dog did you have?
We had 3 Chihuahuas.
Whose job was it to pick up the poop in the house from the dogs?
Whoever's dog it was.
Everybody pretty much.
And who did it?
We all did.
Most of us.
Oh, there was some you missed.
Small dog.
Small dog. It's disgusting.
know.
You know, but you know.
Your Honor, can I
I've had
say-
5 children who all went to college and who all, at one time or another, lived in rental property. And I remember I used to check to see if my inoculations were in order before I went to visit them. And if they would ever ask me, would you like to go visit my friend's house, I would say, no, thank you. They can join us for breakfast at McDonald's. Because I don't go to anybody else's mess. Bad enough I have to go and look at your mess.
Yeah.
So you have to understand that you've been very fortunate if you haven't had
Oh,
a
I have
mess.
been. This
like
is the
they
first
left
time
you
I've
with.
had it this
Now,
bad.
I'm not even addressing the golf balls over here because you don't have any proof of that. You don't have any confessions and you don't have any witnesses who saw them hitting golf balls off the roof. And I'm not going to get any admissions from these guys because nobody even wants to admit who did the bathroom. Aside from the roof, let me see estimates of the damage to the house.
I didn't have them because I just wrote everything down when I sent them in that abandonment letter.
Yeah, well, that's not
And
good
at
enough.
the time of the lease, when they signed the lease, they asked if they could have one dog.
I don't care whether they have one dog, they can have one dog, they have 20 dogs. They got to clean up the dog's poop and not leave it in a closet. Listen, they did not pay the last month's rent, and they were there after the 18th of July. Therefore, they owe you the entire month's rent. That's $950. And based upon what I see in your abandonment letter and what they concede about the condition of the house, that they had 2 dogs, I mean, that's not something that you guess at. You guessed that they had 2 dogs. You found remnants of the dogs there. I can guarantee you that it cost $900 to fix up the mess that you left in the house. So you owe a $950 for rent, and you owe a $950 for cleanup. Well, you've already paid her $950 because that is your security deposit. Right. So, gentlemen, you owe the plaintiff $950. Divvy it up. That's it. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
One of their friends told one of my new renters why the roof was damaged.
Everything on the roof is baloney, if you ask me. We've never went on the roof. I don't know where she got that from.
I changed the locks and told them they had to call me when they were ready to get their stuff, that they were not going into the house.
There was stuff that we damaged. She didn't have a chance for us to fix it. I mean, she just changed the locks.
They're seniors in college. I hate to see what they did in high school.
We're 4 college guys. Obviously, there's going to be damages done to the house.
I feel sorry for the ladies that marry him.
In my opinion, she's a pathological liar, and now I understand why she's single.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gillitzer versus Morris. Step forward, please.
25-year-old administrative assistant Frank Gillitzer is suing his ex-fiancée, ballroom dance instructor Mally Morris, for the return of the engagement ring. Mally claims Frank told her she could keep it.
Mr. Gillitzer, how long were you and Miss Morris engaged?
Exactly 1 year to the date.
And when did you become engaged?
October 18th, 2002.
And when did the engagement terminate?
October 18th, 2003.
And you are seeking in this lawsuit the return of the engagement ring?
Correct.
When did you ask for the ring back?
I believe the correct date on that is the end of January. Once we terminated the relationship October 18th, and then at the end of January, that's when I asked for the ring back. Because we started talking again and trying to reestablish the relationship at the end of November. And I moved back to Milwaukee on January 4th of 2004. And at the end of the month, I found out that it just is not going to work. At that point, I started asking for the ring back.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Frank Gillitzer says his ex-fiancée, Mally Morris, owes for the return of the engagement ring.
Okay. What did Miss Morris say to you the first time you asked for the ring back?
The first time, she said no, she's not giving it back. And
Did she give you a reason?
Honestly, at that time, no. I have emails stating that she's just not returning anything of the ring or...
Well, let me see if you have an email with regard to the ring.
Here are 3 emails stating that she's not giving the ring back.
Why wouldn't you want to give him the ring back?
Well, Your Honor, I had already returned the ring, and then...
When did you return the ring?
I returned the ring on the day, October 18th, that I removed my items from his home. Following that, we did start talking again. We became friendly. He asked me to please keep the ring. He didn't want the ring. He didn't want the emotional attachment. I said, all right.
So what you're telling me is he told you to keep the ring?
Yes. And I have a statement from him to that effect.
I only have one email on January 31st where you say, I'm not sending it back.
Correct. I didn't have the ring. At the time that he emailed me, he had become more and more erratic as we had progressed in our relationship, and we'd been in counseling, and he had been on some drugs to help him deal with it. When I received his first email, I didn't know what to think of it because I thought that he was in possession of the ring at the time.
When was that?
I think he came into the possession of the ring in December. We went to a meeting together at KU. In the car, I had the ring, and I also had a dance videotape.
Where was the ring?
It was in the cup holder of my car.
Why?
I had just taken it off. I have kids, and I take it on and off, and I had left it in the car. But after that night, I could not find either the video or the ring. And
you had gone together to the meeting?
Yes, we had gone together.
In the same car?
Yes.
You remember going to that meeting?
I remember going to the meeting, and I remember the tape. I purchased that tape because we were both dance instructors at the time, and to use it for choreography, I told her that I purchased the tape, I would like to take it and make a copy of it, and I'll give you the copy of the tape.
So you took the tape?
Correct.
With her permission?
Yes.
Is that right?
No, ma'am. He told me that at a later date. When I found that he had the tape, he said, don't worry, I'll give you a copy of it.
Is that the way it came about?
No, it's not. We discussed it earlier, prior to that, back at the end of November.
Well, from November to the time you took the tape in December, did you discuss it with her?
Yes, we have.
That night, did you discuss it with her?
No. Honestly, it was on the dashboard of the car, and since we already talked about it, I figured I'll just take it.
Okay, and you drove there together?
Correct.
And you drove home together?
Correct.
Did you make plans to see each other after that
Yes.
night in December?
Yes.
When?
The next day, I assume.
Did you see each other the next day?
I do not believe that we made plans to see each other. I don't think that I saw him after that event, before he left for Wisconsin. I did speak with him on the phone.
Do you remember when?
I don't. We spoke off and on throughout December and January.
Do you remember when the first time that you raised the issue of the tape?
It was early in January. KU has a activities fair.
Okay,
and we
so that
used
was in early January. You asked him about the tape?
Yes.
And what did he say?
He said, well, yes, I have the tape, but don't worry, I'll get you a copy.
Fine. When did you ask him about the ring?
I'd never asked him about the ring.
Well, it would seem to me that you'd want to know whether or not the ring that you left in the cup holder was also taken at the same time as the tape, since you were talking in January.
Well, Mr. Gillitzer was very confrontational throughout our relationship, and we had a really hard time at the end.
But you were still talking to each other, according to you.
I was trying to remain friendly.
All right. All right, let me see the bill for the engagement ring, please. Okay. Not a very difficult case. Miss Morris, it's been my experience that if something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. I'm a tad older than you are. I have never taken off one of my rings and left it in the cup holder in a car. Never. That doesn't mean that it's impossible that you took off the ring and left it in the cup holder of a car. That just means it's not within my realm of experience, and I'm a pretty normal gal. It also doesn't make sense that you would ask him within days about the tape, but not ask him whether or not, in addition to taking the tape, he happened to take the engagement ring that was in the cup holder of the car. That doesn't make sense to me. And you have an obligation, once the engagement is over, to return the ring to him. You don't have it to return to him. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,853. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I never intended to deny Mr. Gillitzer.
His boyfriend, paint repair worker Dean Harrington, for an unpaid loan to pay off debt. Dean is countersuing for the return of stolen property and for having him falsely arrested for sexual assault.
Yeah, this is case number 324 on the calendar in the matter of Brown versus Harrington. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Miss Brown, Mr. Harrington and you had a relationship for quite some time. According to your complaint, you lived together. And while you were living together, you made him a loan in the amount of $6,000. In addition, there was, according to you, a violent episode in the home that you shared together where he assaulted you both physically and sexually, and he was arrested.
Yep.
Mr. Harrington said that the $6,000 was not a loan, but that you had lived with him for a period of time, never paid any expenses when you lived there, and this really was repayment for living expenses. And in addition, he says that while he was in jail for that one day, and you were only there one day, sir?
Just for the night. Release me in the morning.
In jail for one day. He says that the charges that you filed against him were false, and he wants money for emotional distress. How long did you two live together?
A little bit over 2 years.
From when to when?
March until...
March of what year?
2002, until the beginning of May of this year.
And did you live in his home?
Yes.
Did you pay expenses in the house?
Yes, I did.
What kind of expenses did you pay?
At first, he had a loan out for the garage, so I took over the loan for the garage while he paid for the house payment and the other bills, and I took care of the food. I'd buy all the groceries.
Now tell me about this $6,000.
Well, he had one of the other loans that he had out was for $6,000, and he was paying $100 a month on that loan. And I told him, I says, if you look at this, only half of it goes to the loan, the other half goes to the interest. I says, what we can do is borrow some money out of my savings account, get rid of this so we don't have to pay that interest anymore. In exchange, we just put that $100 back into my savings account instead. And
Where
that's
did you
what
get $6,000 from?
Oh, my dad had died and I had gotten some inheritance money.
Okay. So what did he say?
He thought that was a good idea. That way we would be saving money.
Did you use a joint account?
Yeah, both of our checks started going into the same checking account.
All right, so let's hear about this $6,000. She says you didn't give her back the $6,000.
Okay, this lady here, met her at the bar, and...
Listen to me.
Met her at the bar.
Listen to me. I'm not interested in when you met her. I'm not interested when you started to date her. I'm not interested in anything but the $6,000. You want to talk about your relationship, you go to a psychiatrist. This is about $6,000.
Your Honor.
When?
Can I say something?
Who are you?
I'm his daughter.
Oh, he's a grown man.
Okay.
You take medication?
No.
Is there any reason why you can't tell me this story?
He's nervous.
I haven't done anything yet.
And that...
Well, Your Honor...
Shh. Don't speak. Mr. Harrington, I'm not interested in the beginning of your relationship. I'm interested in the $6,000 that she says you owe her. Could you get to it?
The $6,000 was from when she moved in, and she agreed to pay the partial house payment with the utilities, and she said that she couldn't afford it, so she said she'd pay the loan off with her dad's inheritance that she received from him. That was no loan. I've got 9 months of bank statements here that she never put nothing in it.
She never put anything in your joint account?
It was no joint account. And she moved in. It wasn't a joint account until November 9th, 2002.
Okay.
I have proof right here.
After November of 2002, did she start to put money in your joint account?
Yes.
How much?
I guess it was $742 or something every 2 weeks.
And you used that money for expenses?
Yes,
the answer is yes. You used it for expenses. Your expenses, her expenses.
Yes.
You lived together. This was a family, the two of you. Now, what was the $6,000 debt that you had? What was it for? Was it from credit cards? Was it from a car? Was it from a loan that you took out?
I suppose it was odds and ends for, I've got horses, it might have been $1,000 for them, no, it's just the $6,000 wasn't applied to one
thing.
Right.
All right, so this was clearly your $6,000 loan that she paid off with her $6,000, right?
You're correct.
Okay. Now, when you separated in May, according to you, there was an incident at the house.
Yes.
You want to tell me what happened? Because that goes to Mr. Harrington's counterclaim.
Yeah. Well, in the middle of the night, I woke up with him putting handcuffs on me over the top of me, and I went to pull away from him, and I seen a gun sitting there on the nightstand, so I just stopped fighting just like that. I was scared to death.
You understand that the jurisdiction of this court is $5,000. You
Right.
understand that. So the money that you say was a loan, the $6,000, far exceeds the jurisdiction of the court. So I find that the $6,000 initially that Mr. Harrington had spent was money that he had spent on himself, his horses, odds and ends, etc. They were not debts of a joint couple who were living together. So I'm entering a judgment in your favor in the amount of $5,000. Now I'm going to get, sir, to your counterclaim. I've read the police report. The police report, I don't know whether your daughter has read. Have you?
No, I haven't.
All right. The police report contains your fully Mirandized statement about what transpired the evening that Ms. Brown has described to me, and I haven't asked her to go into detail. It's really not necessary. And there is no question in my mind, sir, that based upon your confession to the police, Miss Brown had sexual relations with you because she felt intimidated. Now, you may have thought that that was a way to spice up your sex life, sir, but clearly she did not. You acknowledged you used handcuffs. You acknowledged you took a gun out and placed it on the night table. You acknowledged all of that, and you seemed to think that that was okay. Now, I don't know why the district attorney chose not to pursue this matter. I haven't a clue. They found the handcuffs where she said that they were in your home. You acknowledged that you took them out without her consent. You did say that when she told you to take them off, you took them off. But that doesn't say that she wasn't, in fact, intimidated and frightened by your actions, because according to you and according to her, you had never done that before. I would be frightened, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you?
No comment.
You wouldn't be frightened if a man that you lived with for the first time took out handcuffs while you were half asleep, put handcuffs on you, proceeded to have sex with you, and you turned over to the night table and there was a gun there? That wouldn't frighten you?
I have no comment.
You have no comment. Good, then say nothing. In any event, your counterclaim, sir, is dismissed, because the crux of your counterclaim is that you suffered emotional distress from being in jail for that one night. If it were up to me, you would have been jailed for a lot longer than one night. Your counterclaim is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
You better watch yourself.
Not very smart.
Women, what can I say? They have you arrested, clean your house out, and still want more.
I knew my side of the story was true, and it would come out this way, so I'm very glad it's over and done with.
It just says,
It's a
love
card.
Wanda.
From one with handcuffs
love.
on it.
The message behind that was meaning that we were joined together.
Hey, this is just one of
This
them,
is
but I
not-
got one every year.
Nothing to do with sex or nothing. It meant that I was committed and we were together.
What they did that night is not something that is rare.
He even asked me about it when I gave it to him, and I straightened him out right away that it just meant that we were committed to each other.
For her to sit there and say that they've never done it before is
We've
is
had
a
them out.
crock
We played around with them before.
Oh, I'm glad it's over with.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Craddock versus Rodriguez, step forward.
Small business owner Joanne Craddock is suing her sister, cocktail waitress Deborah Rodriguez, and her husband Gilbert for their share of a Disneyland vacation. The couple says Joanne gave them the money because they couldn't afford to go on the trip.
Miss Craddock.
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez is your sister, and I assume this is her husband. Is that right?
Correct.
According to your complaint, your sister owes you for the expenses for a trip that the two families took to Disney.
Yes.
Your sister says that there was never an agreement to pay you back the money that she did in fact use. She had some financial problems. You insisted that she accompany the family to Disney, told you would take care of things, and that this whole thing stems from an unfortunate incident surrounding your father's death. When was the trip to Disney?
November of 2003.
And was it an overnight trip or a day trip?
We were there for a week. Debbie and Gilbert took our van, and we took our other van and drove down, and we stayed at a timeshare for a week.
So far, is that true, that you took their car?
Yes.
And the trip had been planned for both families?
Yes.
So why did it become necessary for you to take money from your sister?
On November 9th, I got in a car accident where it was a 3-car accident. One car hit my car right on the driver's side door. I was taken by ambulance to the hospital. Had to be out of work. The car had over $5,000 worth of damage. So I had to call my sister and tell her that I wasn't going to have the money to go. She really wanted us to go on this trip.
Is that what, did she call you?
At all.
Okay. Tell me what she said when she called you and told you she needed your car.
We had offered her our van, and they would just put the gas in it, and we would take our other van, and the timeshare was already paid for. We each had our own timeshare.
Had you paid for it already?
Yes.
How much was that?
$220, I believe. We paid for that almost a year before we went, so that was all
So
paid
the
for.
room was paid for?
Yes.
So what was the conversation about money that you had with your sister?
They told us that they were low on money, they didn't have any more money, and we said that we would put things on our charge for you, but don't let me have to take you to Judge Judy. Honest to God. And here we are.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Things went very badly. She was behaving badly. She was making everybody very uncomfortable, and I had to kick her out of the house.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Joanne Craddock says her sister and brother-in-law owe for a trip to Disneyland. Deborah and Gilbert Rodriguez claim the money was a gift until a family argument changed everything.
So she started to put monies on the credit card for your family. What makes you think that she wasn't expecting to be repaid when you could afford to repay her?
I couldn't afford to repay her, and she knew that.
I said, what makes you think, considering you are not families who have lots of spare cash, car hit you, I assume that you're suing the driver of that car?
Yes.
So eventually, are you going to either settle that lawsuit or come into some money? Why would you think that your sister, who doesn't have a lot of money, would not expect to be repaid?
Because I called her before we took the trip, after my car accident. I'm a cocktail waitress. I live on my tips.
Yes.
I knew I would not have enough money to do this trip.
And she said to you, what?
She said, I want you to go on this trip, and I'll help you out.
So my question to you is, I'm going to come back to my question. She helped you out. She gave you a car to go down in. Why would you think that you should not send your sister $50 a month and say, listen, thanks for helping me out. My family, we all had a great time on the trip, and if it wasn't for you, we really couldn't have gone. I'm going to send you $50 a month till it's paid off.
It was never alone, and the only time it became an issue, she filed for this suit the day after my father died. And the reason she did that was because she was making everybody very uncomfortable. She hadn't spoken to my father in 15 years. She wouldn't have been at my father's house if it hadn't been for me. I pushed for that because I thought it was only fair that she see her father before he died. And things went very badly. She was behaving badly, and I had to kick her out of the house. My aunts came from Rochester, New York, an 8-hour trip. She wasn't allowing them to spend any time with their brother. The situation became out of hand, and I had to throw her out of the house. That is when she said, you're going to make my life miserable, I'll make your life miserable for the rest of your life. And the next day, my father died on the 11th. On the 12th, she filed this suit. It had never been an issue until that day.
Everything she just said was a complete lie.
Was there an incident that happened prior to your father's death?
My father's wife did not want me around for 15 years. I only lived a quarter of a mile from my father. Okay, so it was my father that died also. Except my sister and I are adopted, and we have never gotten along, okay? We were trying, once again, to have a family. My sister did work very hard so that I could see my father. And I did spend 36 hours up with him because I had not seen him in 15 years, other than twice in the mall. And it wasn't my doing, it was his wife's doing, you know. She's his wife.
Whatever.
So, yeah. So everybody was in the kitchen. I was staying with my father, not doing anything. And my sister said, we need to talk. And I, you know, can we do this later? You know, he's got hours here. And I wanted to be with him as much as I could. And all of a sudden she's telling me how she's going to call the police. And I never went to my father's wake or his burial because she told me I'm the one that was making everybody uncomfortable. Stayed away.
That's unfortunate.
But now that my father's dead, he was the pole for us to get together or do anything. And, you know, probably after today, I'll never see my sister because we aren't close.
Well, that's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. It's very unfortunate.
That's unfortunate. But that's not the issue. The issue is there an expectation, an understanding that that money is going to be repaid at a time when you get back to work and your financial situation is improved? I have to determine whether that was your understanding with her.
Okay, can I say something, Your Honor?
You can say something quickly.
There was no understanding on that matter. Would it have been nice to have paid that? Yeah, I think basically, but after this was filed, this frivolous lawsuit, no, I think we don't owe that. We never agreed to that.
Well, let me ask you, if it was nice before, it would
have been nice.
For you to pay him back, right?
Perhaps.
Mr. Rodriguez, you know, life is about being a moral person.
I agree, Your Honor.
You're mouthing the words. You're mouthing the words, but you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. If you're a moral person, and if you are unemployed, and you have 2 children, are these your 2 children?
No, but I would consider my 2 children.
He's their stepfather.
Do you have children?
Yes, I do. Have
Where are they?
Texas.
How old?
He's 22.
When was the last time you saw him? Almost not
about
an answer.
2 years.
2 years ago?
About 2 years ago.
I mean, don't you wake up some mornings and say, oh, I have a child that I haven't seen in 2 years?
Yeah, I do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Mr. Rodriguez, listen to me very carefully, sir. Sometimes you're better off not speaking. Do you understand?
True.
Especially when it's not your family.
I understand, Your Honor.
Good.
But it just boils my blood that she's going to stand here and just makes silly accusations.
Mr. Rodriguez, she's not making any silly accusations.
I think
she's
so.
She's saying that her sister and her husband, two able-bodied people, had to borrow money from her. To stop taking it. Had to borrow money. You don't use the word borrow. Had to take money from her in order to go on a vacation that had been planned for a year because you, sir, didn't have a job.
Right.
And as far as I'm concerned, you can always get a job. It's not necessarily the job that you like. When I used to sit in the family court, you know what I would do? On my way into work, I would pass all the places where there were signs that said help wanted. Car washes, grocery stores, fast food restaurants, and I would have a list of those places and their addresses. And whenever a father came to court and said, I don't have a job, I can't pay child support, I would say, I have a list here for you. Because when you make a family, you have to work. You don't rely on somebody else to take care of your business. That's why you're supposed to sometimes, Mr. Rodriguez, keep your mouth shut. Got it? Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $380, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was a great vacation.
Ex-girlfriend's neighbor, office services technician Linda Crescent, for damaging his car with a squeegee. Linda says she was defending herself against an irate Vernon.
Right in the courtroom, please. Yeah, this is case number 227 on the calendar in the matter of Lawson versus Crescent. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
What's your name?
Judith Savaggio.
Savaggio, are you the girlfriend?
Yes, I'm his friend.
Good. Miss Savaggio, where do you live?
Bakersfield, California.
And where does Miss Crescent live?
She is my next door neighbor.
And how long have you lived there?
6 years, just over.
And how long have you lived there?
42 years.
And how long have you and Mr. Lawson been friends?
Off and on for about 5 years.
More recently, how long on?
Several months.
And when you say you're friends, he says he's your boyfriend. Would that be true?
There would have been a time I would have used that term, yes, Your Honor.
Maybe not now.
Correct.
And do you rent your home or do you own it?
I rent.
Do you rent or own?
I own.
Mr. Lawson, this is what this lawsuit is about. It is your claim that the defendant caused damage to your car with a squeegee.
That's correct.
And it is your claim that you did so purposely.
Absolutely.
Because you were involved in some sort of an altercation with her. She says she was merely defending herself. But I want to go back a little bit because I've read your complaint very carefully. Your complaint says that you and Mrs. Savaggio were boyfriend and girlfriend, and that she was having some trouble with Miss Crescent. Is that true?
Yes, Miss Crescent chopped off some limbs of a tree.
Just a second. The answer would be yes, you were having
Correct.
trouble. When did the trouble with Miss Crescent begin?
It was approximately the first week of June of last year.
June of 2003.
Correct.
Now, prior to June of 2003, had you been reasonable neighbors with each other?
To a degree, yes.
Fine. And then something happened. According to what I read from Mr. Lawson, she cut off some limbs of a tangerine tree and left them on your lawn. Something like that.
She would have had to pick them up and throw them over my fence.
Just a second. That's what it was about. Mr. Lawson says that in retaliation for that, he knew that Miss Crescent objected to his parking his car in front of her house. So he decided to irritate her by parking his car in front of her house permanently. That's what you say in your complaint, correct?
Until such time.
That's what you say in your complaint. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And then what happened, Mr. Lawson?
I had left it there for a couple of days, Judge, and then I drove to
Why did you leave it there for a couple of days?
Because she had failed to remove the branches that she placed over on Judith's property.
What does that have to do with you?
Well, it was upsetting Judy.
Just a second. If it was just a second, if it was upsetting Judy, don't you think that she's intelligent enough to take care of it herself?
Yes, she's intelligent enough to take care of it herself.
Right. So you instead decided to make things worse between these two neighbors. You sort of sauntered in and said, I'm going to show my muscle because I'm a mature, thoughtful individual who, instead of trying to ameliorate a situation, I'm going to exacerbate a situation. So you, as an irritant, parked your car in front of her house. Now, after you did that, Mr. Lawson, tell me what happened.
Well, Your Honor, I had drove over to an appointment in my other vehicle.
Oh, just a second. So you have two cars?
Absolutely. I have a pickup truck and a sedan.
Good. And I assume that at the time, you also had your own apartment.
That is correct.
So what you're telling me, Mr. Lawson, is that you left, despite the fact that you lived elsewhere, you used the front of her house as a parking lot for your pickup truck.
No, Your Honor. That property is on a corner, and I use a side lot, which is completely out of her visibility all the time on the other street.
So when you said here, I decided to begin parking my car in front of her house, although I know it irritated her, that was a lie.
I park it in front of her house because it's not illegal to park in front of her house. It's a city street. It's owned by the public. I pay taxes.
Okay. So tell me what happened after you parked one of your two vehicles in front of her house all the time, sir.
Okay, well, I had driven, Your Honor, over to an appointment, and after returning over to Judy's house, which I visit all the time.
How much all the time, Mr. Lawson? Every day?
Every day.
3 times a week?
Yes.
Every day. So you returned to her house. And what time was it that you returned to her house after an appointment, Mr. Lawson?
It's approximately midday, 1 o'clock.
Okay, and what did you find when you got there?
When I got there, I found that there was 3 screens from Linda that were leaning up against my pickup truck that was parked at the curb.
What did you do when you saw the 3 screens that were leaning against your truck?
I got out of my car and I went over to the passenger side of the pickup truck that had the screens, noticing that Linda was all the way over there next to her house, the windows that she was squeegeeing, and I grabbed one of the screens and I threw it out in the middle of the street.
You grabbed one or all 3?
I believe I got to the second one before she bolted away from the windows, walking 30, or not walking, but running 35 feet away from this truck, and started chasing me down the street with a squeegee in hand like she wanted to bury it in my back.
Well, Mr. Lawson, why did you, instead of taking the screens and throwing them in the middle of the street, why didn't you just take them and throw them off your car?
Well, I probably could have done that.
Well, I'm just asking you why you didn't, sir.
Because she wouldn't pick up the limbs that she threw over the fence in Judy's house.
How old are you?
I'm 53, Your Honor.
Grow up. Don't you have better things to do than to create havoc? You're going to move on. She's been living in her house for 42 years. She's been living in her house for 6 years. You think she needs you to create more trouble?
No, Your Honor.
Right. All right. First of all, let's get to these limbs. I want you to tell me what happened to these limbs of the tangerine tree, because I want to hear it from you, and it better be the truth. Got it?
Got it.
Good. Let's go.
I trimmed the leaves that were, the branches that were hanging over into my yard.
Okay.
And
just a second. So the tree is in her backyard?
Front yard.
Front yard. And you trimmed the branches?
Correct.
And what did you do with the branches after you trimmed them?
I set them very neatly by the fence.
On her side?
Correct.
Why?
Because I had no room in my garbage can to put them.
Well, that's wrong, my dear. That's wrong. That's not neighborly. That's the wrong thing to do. You have perfect right to trim the branches that are hanging over your side of the property. You trim them and you cart them away. And if you don't have room in your garbage can, you wait until you do, because I assume that they have been growing for a long time. And if 1 week you don't have room, wait for the next week. So that was the wrong thing to do, correct?
Correct.
So who asked you to remove them?
No one, Your Honor.
Did you ask her to remove?
I wrote her a letter.
Did you receive her letter?
Yes, I did receive.
And what did the letter say?
In essence, the letter said that if I didn't remove them, that she was going to sue me. I called the owner, and he removed them.
When did he remove them?
Saturday morning.
So how long were they there in the yard?
2 or 3 days.
Is that right?
About a week.
Okay, but the owner of the premises that you rent ultimately removed
Yes,
them.
his son lives a half a block away. His son came and did it.
Fine. Terrific. So that's over. Now, how much after that incident did we have this parking in front?
The parking in front, the limbs were cut about on Monday. I'm not sure. I didn't see her cut them. I think it was Monday we discovered them. I sent her the notice on...
When?
The next day, as soon as I noticed.
Tuesday.
Well, on the following Thursday, I had visitors coming to my home.
The following Thursday?
2 days later.
Oh, that Thursday?
That Thursday.
Just a couple of days later.
A couple of days later. I had visitors coming up the walk to my house, and she chose to scream and yell at them that she was not going to move those. And I didn't think it was appropriate for her to start screaming at my visitors about these leaves.
Okay. Did you scream at somebody?
I never saw anybody come up any walk that entire week except for Vernon, who chose to park in front of my house and scream at me.
So you had an altercation with him after he started to park in front of your house?
Correct.
Is that right?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today...
He kept telling me, nope, I don't want you to go. I'm sorry, I got drunk. I shouldn't have acted this way. I'm sorry I locked the doors. I promise I won't do it again. Okay,
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Vernon Lawson says his ex-girlfriend's neighbor, Linda Crescent, damaged his car by hitting it with a squeegee.
Now tell me about the squeegee.
I was in front of my house washing and drying my windows, and I had a squeegee in my hand when he came screaming around the corner in his car and parked directly behind the pickup. He got out of the car clearly enraged with his fists clenched and came at me. And I turned to see him coming at me. And he grabbed one of the screens, threw it out in the street, and I went out to retrieve the screen knowing that there might be a car coming.
Why did you put the screens on his truck?
Because it was there. It was convenient. It was sitting right there.
Sounds to me like a lot of people behaving badly. A lot of grown-up people who don't have enough to do. It's what happens when you have too much leisure time. How many hours a week do you work?
30 hours a week.
How many hours a week do you work?
40.
I think you ought to work more. You did the wrong thing, Mr. Lawson. You did the wrong thing, Miss Grice. Now you want to show me a picture. I'm dying to see it.
Pictures, Your
I'm
Honor.
dying to see it, Mr. Lawson.
Well, this one right here for evidence, Your Honor, shows my truck in respect to the windows where she had to pass the bushes and a tree in her front yard to lean up the screen.
Let me explain something to you. I understand that she did the wrong thing.
Okay.
I said that. Did I agree with you? Mr. Lawson, I'm an ecumenical abuser.
Yes, ma'am. This is the wonderful dents in my car that she did with her squeegee since she couldn't get me.
This is the tree she cut, fence, put clippings behind. Okay, so she knows she's not supposed to do that. That's not a neighborly thing to do. She wants to clip it and cut it, clips it and cuts it and put it in her trash. Right?
Correct.
Say sorry.
I'm sorry.
Perfect.
I accept that.
You accept her apology?
Yes.
Great. All right, now all you have to do is get rid of him, and then you're all set.
I'm working on that, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, I'm going to suggest that you get the dents out of your car for $100, sir, because I'm not giving you any more than that. She lost her temper. She shouldn't have done that. You acted badly. You have to pay for that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $100. Listen, she's going to be your neighbor. He's going to be gone. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Linda gives a new dimension to Love Thy Neighbor.
This man is a very dangerous man.
Well, she acts very inappropriately toward the neighbors.
He had me arrested. He had asked the police to cuff me and take me to jail.
I am a Christian, and the Bible tells me to see that my neighbor lives beside me in peace. The Bible also tells me that it's a fool who despises her neighbor. So, Linda, I love you.
Thank you.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gifford versus Swisher. Step forward, please.
Plaintiff Donna Gifford is suing her ex-boyfriend, construction worker Fred Swisher, for illegally evicting her from their home. Fred says Donna is vindictive and out of control.
Ms. Gifford, you and the defendant lived together as boyfriend and girlfriend from when to when?
From October of 2003 till June of 2004.
And you moved into his apartment?
His house, yes.
Into his house?
Yes.
Did you pay him any rent?
Yes, I did.
When?
June of 2004.
So from October of 2003 until June of 2004, you paid him no rent?
No.
Now, this lawsuit is about the fact that you claim that sometime in June of 2004, you gave him a check for $500. And within 2 days of that, he locked you out of the house.
Correct.
So you want not only your $500 back, but you want 10 times those damages because you claim he illegally evicted you
Absolutely.
from the house. Why did you put her out of the house?
This all happened on the 17th, which was Thursday. On the 12th, it was a Saturday. We got into a real bad fight.
Was it a verbal fight or a physical fight?
Verbal fight. But the police were called later that day.
Okay. That was on the 12th?
Yes.
What happened after the 12th?
Well, Sunday we got back together, made an amends. Monday she wrote me a check for $500. $400 of it was supposed to be to help pay the bills. $100 of it was supposed to be to pay for my phone that she threw in the canal on Saturday.
Did you throw his phone in the canal on Saturday?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
What happened to his phone?
I don't know.
Don't smile. What happened to his phone? You don't make up a story like that.
I don't know what happened to his phone. It was in the canal. It fell off his boat.
It went into the canal. How did it get there?
We were on the boat that day.
And?
And I don't know how it got in the canal. It was in the canal.
How did it get into the canal?
I never had possession of my phone that day. She had picked it up and stuck it in a baggie when we got on the boat, because that's what we usually do so they don't get wet. And then the next day, we couldn't find my phone, and I took off. Later, she had called me and said, I seen it in the water by your dock, and she fished it out.
Okay, so she didn't throw it into the canal. You didn't have a fight on the boat, did you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you did have a fight on the boat.
That's where it all started.
Well, it seems to me, Miss Gifford, that it was a good idea for you to not live anymore as a couple. Wouldn't you say that?
Well, yes, in a sense.
What do you mean in a
say
sense?
that. Well,
yeah, but listen to me. If you're fighting with somebody,
right,
to the extent that the police are called, it's a good idea that one of you leave.
Correct.
Well, you didn't expect that to be Mr. Swisher. It's his house.
Correct.
So it had to be you.
Correct.
So why didn't you leave after this altercation on the 12th?
Because he kept telling me, nope, I don't want you to go. I'm sorry, I got drunk. I shouldn't have acted this way. I'm sorry I locked the doors. I promise I won't do it again. Okay, fine. I'd stay or I'd move back in. I mean, this was a constant thing.
You should have been smart enough to say, listen, I'm not going to be a yo-yo. I'm going to find my own place to live, or I'm going to pay rent, or I'm going to pay for my own expenses.
Right.
I don't need you. Do you work?
I was working at the time. I got fired because of this.
So, let's talk about the $500. On the 15th of June, she gave you a check for $500.
Yes.
And then 2 days later, you changed the locks.
No, I didn't change the locks. She agreed to move out, and I moved her out for her.
Fine. Terrific. So you have to give her back her $500.
Even for the cell phone?
Yeah, because I don't think that there's proof that she vindictively threw the cell phone overboard. You said you handed her the cell phone, you put it in a baggie, as you usually did, and she asked her where it was, and she said she saw it in the canal. Mr. Swisher, she gave you $500. You put her out. You lived together for 11 months. She wasn't paying rent, according to you, until the very last moment. So you took her money, and then you said goodbye. And you moved her out, which was a good thing. But you have to give it back her $500. Don't be a baby. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. Good?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good. Thank you.
Why does that excuse me? They step out.
It was
is suing the mother of his child, 21-year-old restaurant worker Judy Grabarkowitz, for false accusations of assault, the return of his belongings, and for biting him on the arm.
This is case number 271 on the calendar in the matter of Siska versus Grabarkowitz. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Mr. Siska, the defendant is your former girlfriend.
Correct.
And you also have a child together.
Correct.
Boy or a girl?
Boy.
How old?
just turned a year, September 5th.
Am I correct that you have custody of this child?
That's correct.
And that the defendant was recently awarded visitation of a supervised nature with the child. Is that right?
Actually, the supervised visitation was recently put into effect. I had my son every other day as of June 1st, 2004.
But now you have supervised
Yes.
visitation. And you exercise that visitation?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to tell me what you're suing the defendant for, and then I'm going to try to figure out why you're suing her at all.
Okay. In May, I moved...
May of what year?
Oh, I'm sorry. 2003.
Well, okay, so well over a year ago.
Yes. I moved out of my apartment and was staying with Julie. It lasted maybe about a week and a half. We had an argument, and I left her apartment. About 3 days later, she called me up and told me that how she had filed a police report on me. And what actually took place that night was I allowed my dog to jump up on the bed with me to go to sleep. She got angry.
What kind of dog did you have?
Siberian Husky.
A very large dog?
Yes.
Why?
She's my baby. Julie got very upset at it, jumped up and grabbed a hold of my dog, and I reached up and grabbed a hold of her arm. She went down and filed a police report the next day. About 2 months later, I get a letter in the mail asking me to be arraigned in court.
Okay, so that's the false charge that you're filing.
Correct.
Against her. Now, when was your son born?
September 5th of 2003.
Were you with her when your son was born?
No. I wasn't even called to the hospital.
Had you lived together between May of 2003 and September 2003?
No.
Did you see her?
Yes.
Did you spend the night together?
On a few occasions, yes.
I'm going to get her version of it, and then I'm going to rule on that part of your lawsuit, okay?
Okay.
You want to tell me what happened when the dog was called up on the bed to share the bed with you?
Okay, a Siberian Husky sheds horribly. I hated his dog, I still do. I reached for her collar to pull her off of the bed. I have a copy of the police report. He did not grab my arm. He grabbed my hair and he twisted me around and started choking me. Threw me to the ground, at which point I tried to get away. I was yelling for my mom, who was sleeping out in the living room. Finally, I was able to get away from him. He proceeded to follow me into the living room, threatened my mom, threatened to have his mom fight my mom.
Okay.
And then at which point we finally convinced him that we were either going to call the cops or get out. You know, my mom said we should go to the police right away.
Okay, so that's your version of what happened. It wasn't just taking you by the arm, it was he was angry because you were pulling his Siberian Husky off the bed.
Yes.
Okay. Now, from May of 2003, after he left, until September of 2003, when your son was born, you socialized together?
Not frequently.
I didn't ask you frequently.
No, yes, we did.
You did? Okay. So whatever it was, you sort of made up.
Yes.
That's why you have no lawsuits, sir. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
There's such a thing in the law that we call condonation, which means even if she did file a police report because of, you say you grabbed her by the arm, she says it was a little more than that. After that happened, if you sleep together, which you say you did, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
You sort of condoned that conduct. She condoned your grabbing her by the arm, pulling her hair, twisting. She condoned it by sleeping with you. You got that? And if your version is correct, you condoned her filing this police report. Do you understand?
Yes.
So it was an expensive social event for you. I don't know how else to put that for daytime.
That sounded good to me.
Let's get to the next order of business.
Okay.
Go.
Well, about a month and a half ago, we went to the state fair in Michigan, and we got into another argument. It had to do with our son. She got upset at our son. This is why I went in for supervised. We were out in the parking lot, and I reached to grab for my son. She was holding him. She reached up and grabbed my arm.
You said you reached to grab your son. Why did you do that?
Because we were trying to get him in the car and all that and do the, I says, here, let me see him, like that, and just went, reached up to grab him. She grabbed a hold of my arm and bit it.
Did you do that?
No, Your Honor.
What did you do?
No, I'm sorry. I did bite his arm.
See?
I'm sorry.
See?
Yes, I should have said that. Okay.
Tell me why you bit his arm.
Okay, yes, I had gotten upset at my son.
Why?
He wasn't, he's almost a year old. he was just, I was very tired. He was very tired. He was crying, and it just got to the point, I was like, all right, I put him in a stroller. Scott had him. I was walking ahead of him, trying to cool down. I have a temper. Towards the front of the park, when we were getting near the cars, I picked him up more or less to apologize to him, let him know, hey, Mommy was sorry.
Well, what had you done to him that you were apologizing to him for?
Nothing. I'd gotten upset.
Well, when you got upset...
I hadn't done anything physically to my son.
Had you yelled at him?
No.
Well, then what were you... Listen, what were you apologizing for? Were you speaking to him harshly because he wasn't behaving, he was crying?
Was.
So then you picked him up to tell him that you were sorry for screaming at him because he was probably still crying.
No, actually, at that point, he wasn't. He's very temperamental. He can cry at the drop of a hat. But anyways, Scott had no reason to grab Darian to put him into the car because it was my car. I had the keys.
So you were fighting over him?
More or less, yes. He grabbed me.
Yes, and so you bit his arm?
Yes.
So that's the assault that you are also suing her for, the assault because she bit your arm?
That's correct.
Listen, how long did you know her before you decided to make this baby together?
A few months.
That doesn't sound like good judgment, right?
No, you know,
Well, you got to start thinking with your noodles, sir.
I understand.
Right?
Yeah, I understand.
If you don't think with your noodle, lots of bad things happen. Sometimes you get a baby out of it that's a nice child, but you get a lot of aggravation if you think with other parts of your extremities. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, I understand.
All right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She smoked marijuana during the pregnancy and drank.
Was the baby born addicted to drugs?
And later today,
I just found out I have Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Why didn't you take her to the doctor?
I was sick.
Where was the boyfriend?
He'd just come home for lunch.
Why didn't he take her to the doctor?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Scott Siska says the mother of his child, 21-year-old Julie Grabarkowitz, owes for biting him on the arm. Julie says Scott wouldn't let go of their son.
So, did you receive medical treatment?
No, I didn't. I do have some pictures.
I'll take a look at the pictures.
I'd also like to, if I could, submit some other evidence here. As far as the police report showing that I went like 5 times to court on that. I took her to a jury trial because of what happened with that incident.
You're talking about in May of 2003?
Yes.
Listen to me, sir. I believe that you took the case to trial and that eventually the case was dismissed. Is that right?
Yes.
Fine. I've just explained to you, and I assume you understood, that if you are intimate, don't come to me to complain a year and a half later that she did something wrong because now you're not getting along anymore.
Okay.
I told you before, sir.
Okay.
You didn't think with your noodle once.
You're right.
A month and a half ago when you went to the state fair together. Didn't think with you. If you're going to be the responsible parent, you have to start thinking with your head.
No, you're right.
Fine. Okay. You can't bite him.
I understand.
Fighting, you have a bad temper, you have to go to anger management if you have a bad temper.
It's not that severe.
It's very severe, madam, if you are yelling at a year-old child that you don't have custody. Listen to me. He has custody of the child. He says, let's go to the state fair together as a family. A little bit of a mistake, but maybe, you know, under ordinary circumstances, if you're dealing with 2 rational people, that's a nice thing to do. You can't lose your temper because you're tired. You can't lose your temper. And if you do lose your temper, it suggests to me that either there is something clouding your judgment or you need some professional counseling. You have a baby that's a year old, and I assume that you want to be part of this child's life. This is your only child?
Yes.
The child is with his father?
Yes.
Who clearly still has a little bit of a soft spot for you because as of a month and a half ago, he was still extending an olive branch to go out and spend the day together, right?
Yes, you know, I'm trying to...
Trying to work it through.
Well,
So
for
if
our
he's-
son's sake, you know.
So if he's trying to work it through, I suggest you get a little bit of help.
I don't want to work it through with him.
Not work it through with him. I'm not talking about working it through with him. I'm talking about working through your temper.
Yes, I understand
And your
that.
other problems that you may have. Meanwhile, sir, how badly were you bitten?
Well, I mean, bad enough that, I mean, you could see the marks in my arm. I mean, it was like bruised and, you know, for a couple weeks.
Okay. And how much do you think she should compensate you for biting you on the arm?
Well, I think I put in there for like $600. It's all the aggravation that I deal with her on a daily basis.
This is not going to stop the aggravation.
No, I understand.
This is not going to stop the only thing that's going to stop the aggravation is if she gets some help.
Right, but she won't do that.
That's a big mistake. How old are you?
21.
You have a drug problem?
No.
Did you?
Yes, I used to.
What kind of drugs?
I used to do anything and everything.
When did you stop?
Over 3 years ago, anything and everything, and over almost a year ago for marijuana.
In the past 6 months, have you used any drugs?
No, I have not used anything, and I have proof to testify to that.
Was the issue of your drug use raised at the visitation hearing?
Yes, that is why I had a...
Are you working now, Julie?
Yes.
Full-time?
Yes.
Well, this indicates that as of June 4th, the hair follicle test indicated that there were no drugs in our system for a very long time.
They redid a drug test because Scott asked for me to go back for an assessment, at which point that was when they decided that I should attend AA-NA meetings.
Why? Was it positive?
No.
Okay.
Just because of my history.
Your Honor?
Okay. What?
Here's the assessment.
Can I see it, please?
Yes. The reason why the full assessment was done, because I was aware of the stuff that she was doing and later found out I actually spoke to the laboratory directly that took the hair sample, and they did tell me that...
You can't tell me what the laboratory told you. Was this
Okay.
the report that you got?
Yes.
Well, Julie, the report that I'm looking at...
Horrible.
As far as I'm concerned, it's a positive report for you. There are things that I'm looking at and that I find sort of bode well for your future. You were able to practice abstinence from drugs and alcohol all during your pregnancy, according to this. And you had a long history of substance abuse.
Yes.
And that you tried on several occasions to get yourself clean. You even went into hospital on 2 occasions.
Yes.
But at least you knew enough to know that while you were pregnant, if you took drugs, that was going to have an impact on your baby. What?
That's not true.
What?
She smoked marijuana during the pregnancy and drank, and I was aware of it. That's what caused some of these arguments and the problems that we had. And I threatened custody before the baby was even born because of these issues. You know, I've tried to help the girl as much as I can, you know, because she is still my son's mother.
Right, and you picked her.
And, you know, the thing is, she doesn't learn.
She's tried. You know, the truth of the matter is she's tried. And for a young girl, for a baby, when she was 19 and 20, she's really tried. I'm not giving her any awards for using drugs, but I'm just telling you that this report seems to suggest that she's tried. May not have been totally successful, but she's tried. Was the baby born addicted to drugs?
No.
Was the baby born with fetal alcohol syndrome?
No.
Okay. Got to continue to work on it, Julie.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Scott Siska says the mother of his child, 21-year-old Julie Grabarkowitz, owes for biting him on the arm. Julie says Scott wouldn't let go of their son.
All right. Listen, you can't bite him. And it sounds to me as if you've got a very full plate, sir. You've got a baby to raise. Who helps you raise this baby?
My parents.
Okay, you living at home?
Yeah, I moved back.
Okay, so you brought their grandson and also your aggravation home with you. Because I'm sure that your parents at their stage in life didn't anticipate raising a year-old baby.
No, they didn't. They didn't.
No. And you work?
Yes.
So they really take care of him.
No, I work from home, so.
What kind of work do you do?
Internet.
What do you mean, internet?
Internet jewelry. I sell jewelry.
All right. Julie, you got to pay him $50 for biting him. No more biting.
Okay.
Right? You teach babies no more biting. No more.
I promise.
And do me a favor. Get it together.
I will.
You made a baby. You're supposed to try to be a good parent. So
I'm trying.
You're young enough. Do it. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm going to take her words to heart and just try to follow them as much as possible.
This was more of a lesson to, you know, to be taught here.
He's always tried to control me.
I don't feel I'm being controlling.
He gets upset and he throws his weight around.
Really, the controlling person is her mother.
Hopefully we can just tolerate each other and raise our son to the best of our capabilities. That's all I want.
I hope that things just, you know, we get along and, you know, raise our son, you know, civilly.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Perry versus Rashid. Step forward, please.
19-year-old waitress Colleen Perry is suing her sister, Jennifer Rashid, for wrecking her car. Jennifer says The vehicle had bald tires.
Miss Perry, the defendant is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're suing her because she borrowed your car and she totaled your car.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
you want her to pay for, really, a new car for you. You didn't have collision insurance on the car. And your sister says it's not her fault that the car was totaled because you gave her a car that was defective, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did you borrow the car, Ms. Rashid?
On August 18th, because I had a doctor's appointment. Colleen was supposed to bring me to the doctor's appointment.
Did you live together?
No. She and her boyfriend lived together, and I spent the night with her so she could take me to the doctor in the morning because my other sister, who I count on to take me to these doctor's appointments, I just found out I have Hodgkin's lymphoma. She couldn't do it, so Colleen was my chance to go to the doctor. She was my only way.
So you slept at her house the night before in order
Yes.
to go to the doctor?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't you take her to the doctor?
I was sick.
Where was the boyfriend?
He'd just come home for lunch.
So he was there?
Yes.
Why didn't he take her to the doctor?
Because he had to go back to work.
What kind of work?
I'm an auto mechanic. I only get a 30-minute lunch. I come home early to try and wake her up, but she wasn't feeling good.
Okay, so you took the car because your sister wasn't feeling okay.
She wasn't feeling good, so I said, I'm going to take the car. And Eric told me, he said, well, if you take the car, you need to be careful because the tires are slick and you'll run right off the road. And that's exactly what I did. It was raining. It started to get kind of flooded. The water was about this high on the road.
Okay, so he told you that the tires were bad?
Yes.
So he warned you?
He warned me, but I still had to go to the doctor.
So you took the car anyway?
I did.
Were you present when your boyfriend told her that the tires were bald on the car?
I was laying down on the couch.
So you knew that the tires were bad on the car?
Yeah, the two back tires were bad.
And you let her take the car anyway?
Yes, ma'am.
So why are you suing her? You gave her a defective car. Why are you suing her?
Because when she wrecked the car, we went to the hospital. And at the hospital, she said that she would pay me back. She said, I don't know how I'll ever repay you, but I'll pay you back somehow.
Well, right now she doesn't want to pay you back. Right now she says you gave her a defective car and it almost killed her. Right? Which you did. You gave her a defective car. Why in the world would she pay you for putting her in a position where she could have been killed?
But she knew that the risks whenever she took the
You
car.
knew the risks.
But she knew too.
She sure did. You placed her in harm's way. You should have said, you know, you can't take this car. This car is in very bad shape, and you can't take the car because if you take the car, you may get killed, and I don't want to be responsible. So, goodbye. Your case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, I thought it was really quick, and I think it was